A town square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN, home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
He is hit! He stumbles! He's down!
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
Here we go. A Tuesday edition of the Sports Bash is live on 97.3 ESPN. I'm your host, Mike Gill. We are live on a Tuesday inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. You can listen to us, of course, on the free mobile app. Download wherever you get your apps in the Apple Store or Google Play. And don't forget, you can always message the studio through the free mobile app. You can watch the show live on YouTube and Twitter. Just search 973 ESPN. We got a big show for you today. Phillies and Dodgers. A couple of good ones tonight. Mets back in action. Braves back in action. The NL East had the night off last night. Those three teams did anyway. We will take a look at the NL East race with the Phillies sitting atop. Who would have thought, right? Here we are in mid-August. And the Phillies are in first place by a couple of games after winning 8 straight, my friends. How's everybody feeling out there? Hopefully your Tuesday is going well. A little hot out there today. I think we have plenty to discuss on this Phillies team. Of course, the Sixers Summer League team was in action yesterday. They absolutely wiped the floor with the Dallas Mavericks. We have some information on that. Ben Simmons news as well. The latest over at 973ESPN.com. You can read all about it. The Ben Simmons stuff is not going away. It is going to continue to be fluid, and it's going to continue to kind of be at the top of the list of things. Because as things happen, and when you hear somebody like Kendrick Perkins come out and essentially say he doesn't want to be in Philadelphia anymore, and he is willing to sit out training camp, that is something that goes boop to the top of the list. You don't hear basketball players sitting down at training camp all that often. That is just not something that happens where guys just don't show up to camp in the NBA. Yeah, we've heard about it a lot in football. I don't think you've ever saw a guy in baseball just not show up to spring training, right? It is one of those things where if an NBA player decides not to show up to training camp, that's a big deal. And in this instance, Ben Simmons, if he does not show up to training camp, or if he's putting that message out there, the Sixers might have a little bit of an issue here. So we will dive into that. We've got plenty on the Sixers in the offseason, what's going on, where this Ben Simmons thing could take us. But we start with the Eagles, where Nick Sirianni today, he kind of announced that Jalen Hurts will start the game on Thursday night. He didn't say he's the starting quarterback, but he did say that he will start the game, it looks like, on Thursday night, the way that they've been practicing. He said, yeah, Hurts will go with the starters. Flacco will go after him, and Nick Mullins will go after him. So it does appear that we will see Jalen Hurts play on Thursday night. And I would imagine it sounds like Sirianni was a bit evasive today when asked about who was going to play left tackle. I did hear that Andre Dillard left the field today with a little bit of an injury. So I would imagine that you're going to see Jordan Mailata play left tackle and start at left tackle. Dillard obviously is quote-unquote battling with him for first-team reps. But from what I understand, it has been mostly Jordan Mailata getting the first-team reps and Andre Dillard getting the second-team reps. For whatever reason today, when asked about the left tackle spot, Nick Sirianni did not go on and say, yeah, he is my left tackle. He just said, I don't want to tell you that at this point. I just think he doesn't want to give the perception to any player on the team that they have lost their competition. I mean, the question from Zach Berman of The Athletic today was, who will be your left tackle on Thursday night? And Sirianni says, we're still looking at that. We still got another practice to evaluate and see who we want to go in there. But again, we got another practice to see who it is. Not going to name that right yet. Well, if one practice changes his mind, on who his starting left tackle is tomorrow night after what he's seen so far. Either the reports are way off or he just doesn't want to let Dillard down to the media. Dillard has to know he's behind, right? He's not an idiot. He sees actions speak louder than words, always. And Sirianni's words are, I don't know who my left tackle is. His actions are, I definitively know who my left tackle is. We get so hung up sometimes, oh, he won't name the starting quarterback. It is clear who the starting quarterback is. I don't need Nick Sirianni to go up to the podium and tell me who it is. Actions speak louder than words. His actions are evident. Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback, and Jordan Mailata is your starting left tackle. That is clear. That is obvious. So the charade going on, I get it. He's the coach. He wants everybody to vision that there's a competition going on. He needs Andre Dillard to think that he's still involved in that race. But Andre Dillard knows he has lost that race. Joe Flacco didn't even think he was in a race. I've heard all these people yelling and screaming about why he hasn't named Jalen Hurts the starter. Jalen Hurts doesn't need to be named the starter. And you know what? That's a good thing. It should be a good thing in your mind that the quarterback has enough security to not need to be told, I'm the starter. That's what makes Hurts a unique individual. That's why we should be excited about what Hurts brings to the table. For all the talent that Wentz brought onto the field, and look, Wentz did not play well last year, but he was a phenomenal talent. He was an immensely talented player. But his insecurity got in the way, ultimately, in the end, and it forced his way out of town. The fans didn't force Carson Wentz out. He forced his way out. I don't think the fans were like, this guy sucks, get rid of him. But I think they were quite on board when the possibility of him getting moved popped up. I think most fans would have liked to seen him turn it around and become the player that we saw in 2017. But many realized that because Jalen Hurts was here and because Nick Foles won a Super Bowl, that Carson Wentz wasn't going to reach the potential that he could have. He had too many other things on his mind. The fact that Sirianni doesn't have to name Hurts the starter tells you a lot about Jalen Hurts. I don't think Jalen Hurts is behind closed doors going, man, why won't they name me the starter? He can see, like everybody else, I'm getting all the first-team reps. So if he's getting all the first-team reps, wouldn't he have to be the starter? Who is going to play a quarterback with the first team all training camp long, and then at the first week of the season pull a fast one and say, you know what, Flacco, you're my guy? I guess stranger things have happened, but I don't see it happening. So for all the people who are wondering, why won't he name the starter? He has a starter. But his quarterback has enough inner security that he doesn't need to hear it in public from the coach. And I wouldn't think that it's so off base to suggest that he has already told Jalen Hurts behind closed doors. Sirianni said today when asked, what's the plan for Jalen Hurts? He said, quote, we're still looking through that. We're still talking through that every day. We don't have exactly, again, there are guys, everyone is in a little different scenario. For me to say, hey, the starters are playing this many, we've discussed everybody, and everybody has their own little scenario that we're doing. Expect everybody to play for the most part, and yeah, that's in constant discussion. So he completely evaded the question about Jalen Hurts, but then the next question was, can you talk about your quarterback rotation at all? And he said, yeah, Jalen Hurts will go with the starters, and then Flacco, and then after him will be Mullins. So there you go. Jalen Hurts is starting on Thursday night, and he will start on Sunday, September 12th. So now that that's out of the way, it'll be interesting to see, I guess, on Thursday night, how much playing time he gets. Now, he was asked a bunch of different ways today. Well, what if he throws an 80-yard touchdown? What if he goes 3 and out? I mean, does that affect his playing time? Look, all this stuff affects playing time. It all affects playing time. When you are in the heat of a game, whether it's a preseason game, whether it's a regular season game, whether it's a playoff game, or whether it's the freaking Super Bowl, you don't go in with a preconceived plan and think that it's going to stick to the plan the entire time. You don't go to a baseball game and say, man, I really hope I'm only going to let this guy, well, you shouldn't anyway. I know in some cases when you have a bullpen game and you don't want that guy to go more than 2 innings, you might do that. But if you got a guy pitching and it's nothing in the 4th inning, you're probably going to keep him in. If you got a guy pitching and you're down 4-0 in the 4th inning, you might take that guy out. The guy you bring in might be different than the guy you originally thought you were going to bring in because you didn't anticipate being down 4-0 in that situation. If you're up 4-0, you might go to a different guy to try to hold the lead. It's the same thing in football. Hey, I only saw him for 2 series, but the running back fumbled the ball on both series, so I never got to see my quarterback do anything. So I'm going to keep him out there for a 3rd series, even though originally I only wanted him out there for 2 series. Sometimes you can't control what other guys on the field are doing that affect your opportunity. If I'm Jordan Mailata and I'm the head coach and I say, I want Mailata out there for a quarter, well, the offense never got on the field for more than 3 plays. Maybe they went 3 and out and never got another chance to go out there. He might say, all right, I'm going to have you start the 2nd quarter, even though my plan originally was you're only going to play a quarter. So Thursday night, very fluid. The coach kind of, mapped that out there, that it is going to be a very fluid situation. But that we will see Jalen Hurts get the start. And Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback of this football team. We all know it. So before practice begun today, Nick Sirianni said that Hurts will start and Flacco will relieve it. And then here comes Mullen. He did not commit. But the one thing that will be interesting to watch in the game is what kind of play calls will go into the quarterback situation. Will they be a very RPO-heavy team? Will they be very quick, fluid, in and out of the huddle? Now, Sirianni said he would call the plays and that Shane Steichen, who was the offensive coordinator, would then give the formations and plays to the quarterbacks. So Sirianni is going to call the play to Steichen, who's going to then call it into the quarterback. Now, that could turn into be a clunky situation. We'll see how it all works out Thursday night. You've got the coach having to think about the play, which play that he wants. He's telling somebody. That guy then needs to tell somebody else. But I would anticipate, and the Eagles did send out their first depth chart today. All right, the first depth chart of the season is out, and I'll take a quick gander over that and kind of relay who is where. And remember, these depth charts are put together by the PR squad, right? They are not like hard and fast. These are not definitively the depth charts, but it is a indication of what the team is kind of looking at early in the season. This is kind of the first glance at what the team will look like. This is the depth chart, the quote unquote unofficial depth chart that is put together by the public relations department. So at wide receiver, Devonta Smith is your number 1. Greg Ward is listed as the slot guy with Jalen Reagor as the starter on the outside. Travis Fulgham is listed as the backup to Smith. And in the slot, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is listed as the backup to Ward. And Quez Watkins is listed as the backup to Reagor, which means John Hightower is somewhere around 7th on the depth chart. And the only other guy of some significance, I guess, as a wide receiver, you would say is Michael Walker, who has a little bit of veteran experience. But I would think if they keep 6 guys, it would be Smith, Fulgham, Hightower, Ward, Ortega-Whiteside, Rieger, and Watkins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be 7. So I think somebody in that room is going to get chopped off. Now, at left tackle, they do not name a starter. It says Dillard/Mailata. So they are not naming a starter at the left tackle position. And the third string left tackle is Brett Toth. At left guard, they list Isaac Seumalo, Suopeta as the starter and backup, Jason Kelsey, Nate Herbig, Luke Juriga as the center, Brandon Brooks, Matt Pryor as the right guards, and your left right tackles are Lane Johnson and Jack Driscoll at that spot. Now, the interesting part there is Matt Pryor as the backup right guard. I think Jack Driscoll got the first snaps at right guard the other night during the 11-on-11s. Now, at tight end, they do not list a starter. They have Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert both listed as the starters. There is no first team or second team there. It is just Zach Ertz and Goddard in the first team slot with Richard Rodgers, Jack Stoll, and Tyree Jackson listed as the tight ends. At running back, it's Miles Sanders, the starter, backed up by Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, number 3, Kenneth Gainwell, number 4, and Kerryon Johnson, number 5. Behind him is Jason Huntley and Elijah Holyfield. So I would imagine 4 of those guys make the team: Sanders, Howard, Scott, Gainwell, Johnson, and Huntley is in the mix here. Keep that in mind. On your first team quarterback, it is Jalen Hurts. He is listed. It is not a slash. It is not a combo. Hurts is listed as the starter, Flacco as the backup, Mullins as the third string. So that is your offense for the Eagles, the unofficial depth chart, which was put out today. Couple interesting things of note is the fact that Dillard Mailata is still there. The tight end spot, not a big surprise. J.J. Ortega-Whiteside is listed kind of as a slot guy. So that's kind of interesting that they put him in the slot department. Fulgham on the outside behind Devonta Smith. So let's go over to the defense now and kind of take a look at that inner workings. At defensive ends, they've got Brandon Graham, the starter, on one side, backed up by Ryan Kerrigan. On the other side, it's Derek Barnett and Josh Sweat. They are co-listed as starters, and there is no reserve. The defensive tackles are Hargrave and Fletcher Cox, backed up by Milton Williams, Hassan Ridgeway. So Milton Williams apparently is ahead of the late 6th-round pick from USC. So Williams has been having a good camp. He is, part of the 4-man rotation, it appears. At the linebackers, now this is interesting because they do list 3 linebackers, Sam, Mike, and Will. The Sam, they have Jannard Avery as the starter. The Mike, it's Eric Wilson. And the Will, it's Alex Singleton. Davion Taylor is the backup to Singleton with TJ Edwards behind Eric Wilson. Sean Bradley is further down the list. Jacoby Stevens, who was a late-round draft choice out of LSU, played safety in college. He is the backup to the backup at the Will linebacker spot. At corner, Steven Nelson and Darius Slay are your starters, with Zach McPherson and Michael Jacquet as the backups to them. Kayvon Seymour and Craig James are the third-team guys. The nickel corner, Avonte Maddox and Josiah Scott. They do not have a third nickel guy even listed. So it's just Maddox and Scott on the nickel side. At safety, Kayvon Wallace, Andrew Adams, and Graylin Arnold are your starters. Now, keep in mind, Rodney McLeod is injured right now, so he would be on that list, but he is not on the active roster. Anthony Harris is the starter at the other safety spot with Marcus Epps backing him up. And that is your starting unit for the defense. Graham, Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Jannard Avery, Eric Wilson, Alex Singleton, Steve Nelson, Darius Slay, Maddox, Wallace, Harris. Most likely for Thursday night. Sipos is your punter. Elliott is your kicker. Lovato, your long snapper. Rieger is listed as your punt returner, backed up by Devonta Smith. And your kick returner, Quez Watkins, Kenneth Gainwell, Jason Huntley. There you go. That is the unofficial depth chart put out by the Philadelphia Eagles today. which again has Jalen Hurts listed as your starting quarterback. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget to download the free mobile app. It's free in the Apple Store, Google Play. You can message us through your free mobile app. Take the show on the go, and we will read off your messages throughout the day. 609-403-093 on the text board. You can hit us up on the phone, 609-573-3776, 609-573-3776. Coming up, Frank Close on the Phils. Big series with the Dodgers tonight. What are the expectations here? Plus, we'll do some Sixer conversation in the 3 o'clock hour. Football at 4. What did Andrew DeCecco see in the latest Eagles practices? The news and notes coming from the NovaCare Complex. And it's a Tuesday with Thompson. The PT is here at 5 o'clock tonight. 225 Sports Bash brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan. The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan now open Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, next to Home Depot. Online, mattblattnissan.com. The unofficial depth chart, which we just read off for you, the one surprise I would say on that list, there's only one surprise out of all of that. And it's not like this huge surprise. But the only surprise that I really see, because I don't think that, I wouldn't even say it's a real surprise, because I just don't think they're going to play three linebackers on the field, is that Jannard Avery is listed as a starting anything. Because I don't know what they're playing. I'm interested. What are they going to do with that position? Because Avery, Osman, and Patrick Johnson are the three players listed at that spot. Are they going to let those guys kind of, have at it, go after the quarterback? Like, what's the role of the Sam linebacker in today's NFL? So I don't want to say surprise is the wrong word. I guess intrigue. Because Graham, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Because they have 12 guys really listed as starters. Really 13 if you look at the defensive end, where they have both Barnett and Sweat co-starters, but you can't have three linebackers on the field unless you're taking one of the corners off the field. That would probably be Maddox. So what's the role for Avery? What is that role for that Sam linebacker? That's the one, I guess, surprise is the wrong word. Intrigue would be the word that I would kind of bring up in that scenario right there. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. 609-403-0973 is the text board. 609-403-0973. That's the text board. You can always download the free mobile app and message us through the app. Hit the app, launch your app, hit the message us button while you're listening to the show. You can interact with us through there. Also, you can watch the show live, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just search 973 ESPN. So the Eagles getting ready to play Pittsburgh on Thursday night. And, of course, you can hear that game on 97.3 ESPN. So a couple of things today from Eagles training camp that, we have kind of kept our eye on. And we have football at 4 every day at 4 o'clock, so we always get you the latest. But a couple of things that I've kind of, been watching from training camp from afar. And one is, from what I understand, Jalen Hurts has looked really good when throwing the ball to the tight ends, right? He has hit Ertz. He has hit Goddard with regularity. Now, the bad is when he throws the ball to the outside to the receivers. Now, this is an interesting kind of scenario here. Is it good that he has not been as efficient to the outside? Because from what I understand, Darius Slay has been very good in the camp, and Steven Nelson has been very good in the camp. And as you've heard from our Football at 4 team, that Zach McPherson has been pretty good as well. So when Hurts has been going to the outside, he has not had as much success. Could it be a timing thing? Could it be that he's not really used to throwing to some of these guys? Or is it that Slay, Nelson, McPherson, Maddox are all pretty good? That remains to be seen. I think we'll find out tomorrow, Thursday night, in live game action. Now, while Nick Sirianni didn't tell us how much the starters will play, I think you will see Hurts play and get at least a quarter. Because I don't know how much Hurts is going to play down the stretch. But that being said, I don't think you want to ask Joe Flacco to play 2 quarters and Nick Mullins to play 2 quarters in some of these games. So I think you're going to get at least 3 to 4 series out of Jalen Hurts on Thursday night. I think we definitely are seeing that Jordan Mailata will play left tackle. Now, from what I understand, Dillard left the field with some sort of injury today, but Mailata has been working with the first team essentially throughout. So some of the things that we are looking forward to on Thursday night with the depth chart that was just released. Now, keep in mind, Devonta Smith is listed as the starter, and he will not play in the game. Somebody texted in 609-403-0973 on the text board. On the video stream, Dom is watching the show live on YouTube, and he says, hey, Mike, at what point do we start to be concerned about Devonta Smith? Is he going to end up being Rieger 2.0, 0 reps, 0 chemistry, hoping we aren't watching him play catch-up all season? Well, Dom, it's a great question. It's a fair question. It's hard to answer. Every person is different. Yeah, I think Rieger is not as talented as Smith. That's number one. Number two, Smith is out on the field. He is getting some sort of repetitions, mental repetitions. He's been out there doing a little bit of stuff in terms of catching the football, all that. I don't think he is going to be Rieger 2.0. I think he's just too talented, has too much ability that him missing time, I don't think should hurt him. There are certain guys that just, it comes natural. I think Smith is more of the it comes natural. Rieger's a guy who probably needs to practice more. But at what point do we get concerned about Devonta Smith? The point we get concerned about Devonta Smith is when we hear he's had a setback. So far, haven't heard that. I have not heard anything negative regarding Smith. Now, the question will be, will he be ready to play at some point during the preseason? Maybe that last game? Possible. Do the Eagles want to put him out there and risk anything? I would say most likely not. So I wouldn't anticipate seeing him out there for any of the games in the preseason. But to go back to your question, keep in mind, there is a 18-day, I believe, right? I think there's an 18-day gap between when the Eagles finish the preseason on the 27th and then they open up the regular season on the 12th. Which means what? Smith, if ready, because they said a 2 to 3 week injury, and that was a week ago. So theoretically, he probably could be ready to play by the 27th. If they elect to hold him out of that game, he still has about 2 weeks and more to get out on the field and practice with Hurts and get the timing down. Now, keep in mind, to go back to your question, Dom, and I'll pop it back up on the video screen for the people watching on YouTube. You mentioned 0 reps and 0 chemistry. What's the one thing that Smith and Hurts uniquely have? They have chemistry. They have played together going back to their days at Alabama. So the chemistry part should not be the issue. Rieger jumped in here last year. Remember, they had no mini camps, no training camp, hardly. Nothing was normal. So Rieger did not have the reps. He did not get the chemistry, obviously, with Wentz. And by the way, he got a second-rate Wentz last year. He didn't get 2017 MVP of the league, Carson Wentz. He got this other version. I think the Hurts-Smith chemistry will probably be like riding a bike. I think those guys will be fine. I think they will be able to kind of, because from what I just read, what we were talking about, which was Hurts is having some good chemistry early with the tight ends. He has had a good chemistry with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. Maybe that's because he doesn't have that connection built in yet with one of the wide receivers, and he's waiting, or I don't want to say waiting, but that will be there when Smith gets back out on the field. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Don't forget, download the free mobile app. It's free in the Apple Store, Google Play, and you can message the show on the go right through the free mobile app. You can also text us at 609-403-0973 or hit us up on the phone, 609-573-3776, 609-573-3776. When we come back, big week for the Phillies. That's right. The Phillies. Big week for the Phillies, I said. Where are my Phillies fans at today? Come on, you guys can't die off on me now. Hit me up on the text board, Phillies fans. How excited are you for this series with the Dodgers? You know what's funny? I was watching today. Somebody posted on social media the video when Jimmy Rollins hit the double that cleared the bases against the Dodgers when the Phillies beat the Dodgers in Game 4 in 2008. to put the series up 3-1. And it was like, man, Red October, Phillies playoffs. Let's do this, baby. So if you are excited about the Phils, shoot me a text, 609-403-0973, and kind of give me your level of excitement. Where are you? Are you at a 10? Are you all in? Are you kind of dipping your toe in the water? Where are you with this Phillies team? Frank's Phillies mailbag, we got that coming up. Is this the peak of the team? Can they get better? How about the bullpen? How are they going to kind of situate that? And what will the return of Freddie Galvis look like? I got that and more with Frank Close, our Phillies insider, up next here on the Sports Bash. Phillies and Dodgers tonight. Citizens Bank Park. Mike Gill, Frank Close covers the Phils. 97.3 ESPN.com. Of course, the Phillies moved into first place over the weekend with a sweep of the Metropolitans. Both teams had the night off last night, so no movement in the National League East. Braves were off as well, but all three are back in action tonight, Frank. And obviously, the Phillies have the toughest battle here. Let me get your start. Let's start with that. Let me get your expectation and what do you want to see happen in this series against the Dodgers? Do they just have to figure out a way to get one? Would you like to see them get two to kind of prove that they belong? How are you kind of approaching this series?
Well, I think the Phillies certainly need to win one, right? I know that doesn't sound like something to aspire to, but the Phillies will probably be okay if they win one of these games. But you know what? They're home, so it's a lot different than going out to LA and facing the Dodgers. The Phillies have beaten Max Scherzer before. I guess a lot will depend on kind of how they come out. It seems like a lot of the Max Scherzer starts we've seen this year, the Phillies have come out swinging early in the count, and Scherzer got deep into games. I would like to see them sort of let Scherzer labor a little bit. And if you get past him, then you're feeling a lot better about the series because, winning one out of the following two seems a lot better. But I think that's true of any of these tough series, that if you can get off to a good start, you can kind of set a tone that will take the team a long way.
I know that, they won 8 straight. What has kind of happened during this 8-game win streak that has stood out to you and that they can continue doing to keep the success moving forward? Is it just a hot streak, or has something kind of, tweaked or changed over this little streak that we can start to see the foundation of a better baseball team? I saw their record 59-53. It's the same record that they had in 2007. It's also the same record they had in 1980.
I see a new sense of confidence I didn't see before. It seemed to me before when a player would get injured, and let's face it, they had a lot of them throughout the season, right? Whether it's Bryce or JT Realmuto or Didi at times. Of course, Didi gets hit by a pitch and he's out a couple games again. But it seemed like before they almost took a woe is me type approach. And now I see the Phillies just saying, okay, well, keep powering on. We got this.
They got better depth too, though.
Yeah. Right. Well, the depth is a little bit better, but in some respects, I just think the attitude is so much better. Like I didn't see a team that had any sense of urgency before, and now it seems like there's a sense of urgency. And the more that they've, as that has built, their confidence has built, and I don't think that a series against the Dodgers feels like it would if it was 3 weeks ago.
Hey, Frank, let's look at some of the mailbag questions. These are questions that the listeners and the Phillies fans are thinking the most about. And obviously, there's a lot of questions that we can get to. But these are some from our listeners, and I want to focus on those. Gary says, do you think they are peaking too early? Do they have enough gas left to finish the job? I'm interested to see how you answer this one.
I get where he's coming from, because we've seen over the years many teams have sort of gone on a hot streak at the end of the season, and that's kind of carried them into the playoffs. The Phillies, you just mentioned the 2007 Phillies being one of those teams. But, it's, and also, of course, the Phillies in 2007 got swept by the Rockies, who won 14 out of 15 to finish that season. So we've seen it very much that the hot team can go somewhere at the end. But, and certainly I think being the hot team really does matter. But, 50 games left, there still is a bunch of time, but I still think that this is going to be carried on the back of Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto, both being healthy, and both players really kind of taking charge. And we've heard a lot lately about Bryce Harper sort of being an MVP potential candidate going forward. Still about a third of the season left for him to show that he's that. But the fact that the two of them are healthy and firing on cylinders, I think that's kind of setting a tone that can help the Phillies through these 50 games. Now, if you look at some interesting numbers, Baseball Reference gives the Phillies a playoff odds of 61.5%, which that's encouraging, right? But of course, you got to keep things going. Over the years, we've seen at the end of the season, the Phillies have had a good shot for the playoff. Even last year, right? They could have won one game in that final series against Tampa Bay and been in the playoffs, and yet they blew it. They still have to carry out these games. It will help the Phillies that they get Andrew McCutchen and Zach Eflin back. They're certainly much better with them and without them. And considering those 50 games, about 30 of them are teams that they should beat. Now, again, should is the key word. We've seen the Phillies fall flat to the Marlins in the past when they should have beaten the Marlins. But I think Zach Wheeler as the ace kind of sets the tone here, and you feel like he can beat any team, even the teams that are the quote unquote good teams that make up those other 20 games now. So I feel like they're feeling the pressure, not just of the Mets that they now pass, but even the Atlanta Braves right behind them. I think there's this sense of urgency here, and I think that they can really carry that out these last 50 games, provided that the Braves are putting that pressure on them. And I think at the end of the season, you have a potential for that final series against the Braves, which is the next to last series of the season, to really matter. But I can see the Phillies, of course, not being the team that wins 8 in a row all the time. Of course, maybe they'll add to that tonight. But they're a team that I think that can win and can hang in there.
I would follow that up by saying I was interested to see how you answer that question, because they might be peaking right now, but the Mets are leaking oil, it feels like, and their schedule, they play 13 of 16 against the Dodgers and Giants. This could be a very pivotal 2-week stretch, 3-week stretch for these two teams.
I agree. I feel like they're in particular, there's 10 games in a row they have against the Giants and the Dodgers. I think the Mets are just going to get knocked out for the rest of the season during that series. I really do, during that series of games, because they just don't have the starting pitching right now. They're without their ace, and who probably is arguably the best pitcher in baseball, with Jacob deGrom. I'm more worried at this point about the Braves catching the Phillies than I am about seeing the Mets sort of come back to life here. So rather than focusing on the Mets, I would actually recommend that fans focus on the Braves. The Braves, revamped their outfield. Of course, they had one outfielder arrested, and then their star player in center was out for the season in Ronald Acuna Jr. So they've really kind of cobbled together a new outfield, but they seem to be clicking, and they seem to be firing in all cylinders. So I think what matters more is not the Mets schedule, but the Braves schedule. And the Braves probably have I would say, pretty comparable schedule to the Phillies. I'm sure you can nitpick and maybe compare one to the other, but a lot of
the Phillies don't have a lot of division games left. That's a quirk in their schedule, where they're not playing a lot of NL East games in the remainder of the season.
Right. So they did get a lot of them out of the way, which will be very, very, very interesting as you go forward. So the opportunity to gain games on the Braves just isn't there, because they're only going to play 3 more times, and that's the second to last series. So the Phillies need to hold their own against these other teams in other divisions, and make sure that they kind of control where they are. Because if you're in first place now, you need to play better than the Braves and the other teams behind you. So that's all within their control right now. And I would say, again, the Braves schedule is a little bit comparable to the Phillies.
All right, Frank Close, Phillies mailbag is open. Phil wants to know, when are the expected returns of Connor Brogdon, Sam Coonrod, and Sir Anthony Dominguez? This is a question that kind of has to do with the battered bullpen at this point.
Right. So the Phillies have the potential, I think, to get as many as 3 arms rather soon, because we see that Mauricio Llovera, I mean, that the poor guy is probably out of his league, quite literally, and in the major leagues right now, and 3 home runs in a row, that's something that we just haven't seen by a reliever. So certainly the likes of Enyel De Los Santos being around, you could probably use some upgrades there. Good news, Connor Brogdon, Destiny Lugardo caught him of Phillies Nation, where she comes from. She caught him throwing in the outfield the other day. So it looks like Connor Brogdon is perhaps in a better spot than a lot of them. That means he could probably start a rehab assignment.
He was on the
soon.
COVID list?
No. Brogdon has an elbow tendonitis issue.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's good. So it was not a COVID setback.
Excuse me, falters on the COVID list.
Falters on the COVID list. So Brogdon, it looks pretty good. If he's out there throwing, that probably means he can take an appearance or 2 in a rehab assignment. Sir Anthony Dominguez, by the way, a week ago when we talked, I was kind of like, if he gives you anything, he'll be a wild card. But he's made 2 official appearances for Class A Jersey Shore, both scoreless. And then on Sunday, he was starting that game. That game was suspended, but in terms of rehab appearance, he threw a really nice scoreless inning with 2 strikeouts that eventually will count when they finish that game. So I think right now, Sir Anthony Dominguez, if you kind of read into the Blue Claws Twitter handle, They wished him farewell, so it looks like he's headed to AA or AAA now. And if he does well at AA or AAA, you could see Sir Anthony Dominguez sooner than later, which is something which, again, I still say it's kind of a wild card compared to last week, but that would be a wonderful bonus if he's really looking this good as he progresses up the scale. And then Bailey Falter, I'm going to add him to that list because Falter had a rough bout with COVID-19. And it sounds like he's throwing again. He's throwing bullpen sessions. He's with the Phillies at the moment, and he is somebody who could have a rehab assignment soon. So interesting that all three of them could really help the Phillies in the nearer future. I would imagine a rehab assignment for any of them takes about a week. Brogdon, just went on the IL on the 3rd, so he's not eligible to come back yet. But that's some nice reinforcements that the Phillies bullpen could be getting very soon. Now, the unfortunate thing, Sam Coonrod. I did catch one of his rehab assignments, but on a second rehab assignment, July 21st, he got shut down and has not thrown since. So Coonrod might not be in the picture in the immediate future, but the Phillies potentially get 3 arms that could help them really soon.
Frank, speaking of someone that can help them, what is the latest on Freddie Galvis? Who gets sent down? How do they use Galvis?
Well, it depends how quickly he can make it back here. I've been keeping an eye out. I imagine some of those players we just mentioned in Galvis, we will hear very, very soon that they will be doing rehab assignments. Galvis has been with the club and been a positive influence on the club. By the way, The Athletic has a nice piece from Matt Gelb and Freddie Galvis today. So if you're an Athletic subscriber, I recommend you check that out. But I would imagine Freddie gets a rehab assignment soon, and then he can join the Phillies soon thereafter that. One thing I'll point out, too, is it's already August 10th. The Phillies roster will expand, not up to the 40-player limit like it used to be, but they'll get 2 extra players on the roster. So depending on how this plays out, it could take Freddie, I would guess, would take one of those spots. But if everybody's at full strength, I could see somebody like Luke Williams get optioned to the minor leagues, just being told, hey, listen, we're go get some at bats, and then you'll be back with us September 1st. So be ready. And with those 2 extra spots, perhaps one of those relievers we just mentioned will be the second extra roster spot for the Phillies. So I think it'll work itself out with those couple extra spots. By the way, it feels really tight to only have 2 extra spots in September compared to yesteryear when you could put all 40 on them. Remember that a few years ago, the Phillies had almost all 40 on the active roster. But I think there is some space for that to work out. And, again, September's almost here. Hard to believe.
Sean Kane over at NBC notes that the schedule for the Phillies, Sunday was the final home game of the year against a National League East opponent. They have no home games against division rivals in the last 50 games of the season. Their final 15 division games, they are all on the road. So that includes a 3-game series with the Mets later on. They play the Braves later on. So if they need that home cooking, they're not going to get it against division foes the rest of the way. So we'll have to keep an eye on how they play on the road inside the division. Frank Close, 97.3, ESPN.com, Phillies insider at Frank Close. His Phillies mailbag appears on Tuesdays at 97.3, ESPN.com. All right, Frank, enjoy this series, man. Should be a good one.
Will do. You do the same.
All right, man. And, of course, we'll have an eye on that tonight. Phillies and the Dodgers. That's at Citizens Bank Park. We'll have all the recaps tomorrow. And for more on the Phillies, go to 97.3 ESPN.com. And don't forget, you can download the free mobile app and always take the show on the go, take the station wherever you go, and get all the inside information on the Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, Eagles, and local high school sports through the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. It is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, coming up in the next hour, we'll talk a little Sixers. Ben Simmons not taking the Sixers calls. How accurate is that? Is he really not willing to report? We'll have the latest coming up in the 3 o'clock hour. Plus, you can go to 97.3 ESPN.com and the free mobile app to get that right now. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. We are brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia, the Matt Blatt Kia Studios. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. When we come back, we will dive into the Phillies and the Dodgers, plus the Sixers and the Eagles. We got it all for you Holy moly, it's a busy time of the year. Eagles and Steelers this Thursday night, right here on 97.3 ESPN. Stick around. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Hour 2 of the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Download in the Apple Store, Google Play. I'm Mike Gill. What's going on, everybody? Follow me on Twitter at Mike Gill Show. You can watch the show live video, Facebook and Twitter. Just search 973 ESPN. We got a lot more planned for you here, brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan, the all-new Matt Blatt Nissan, open on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, right next to Home Depot. Online at mattblattnissan.com. So over at 973ESPN.com, over the weekend, if you go to 973ESPN.com, we have a post up. You can check out the video. There were unruly fans over the weekend, right? None of which were from Philadelphia. Well, we don't know where they're actually from, but they weren't rooting for the Philadelphia teams, right? Philadelphia sports fans always have this reputation of being unruly or that they're the worst. It's the worst place to go. But if you go to 973ESPN.com, there's a couple of instances that suggest that this might actually be changing. One, over the weekend, the Met fans were at Citizens Bank Park and got into a fist fight together. Yes, Mets fans fought each other at Citizens Bank Park. Is it proxy that hey, we're in Citizens Bank Park, we have to act unruly? Is that what is happening here? So go to our website, 973ESPN.com, and check out the piece on the two unruly fans who are shockingly not from Philadelphia. It's amazing. No, I mean, I always say all the time, this whole narrative that the Philadelphia fans are the worst and they're the only fan base, the Mets fans, they got into a fight with each other. If you look at the video, there's two guys fighting. There's a bunch of Met fans all just kind of standing around watching. Some are trying to pull them apart. Some are trying to kind of separate the whole fray. But it's just another indication of the narrative about the fact that the Phillies fans are the most unruly and they're the worst, or Philadelphia fans in general. That's number one. Number two, did anybody check out the video? And you got to see this. Go to our website. It's amazing. So the Dodger fan, right, not a Philadelphia fan, the Dodger fan runs out onto the field the other day. It's the Dodgers-Angels game at Dodger Stadium. And the Dodger fan, he runs out onto the field, right? And he's running. And he's sidestepping and he's slipping tackles. The one security guy, he's got him, and the guy runs out of the tackle. Now he's breaking away. I always like to know, what's your plan? At that point, what is the plan? You've now outrun the initial fray of the security guys. Now what? Are you just going to keep running around the stadium until you run out of gas, until somebody catches you? Apparently he started from left field. He then jumps on the field. He is out past second base. He slips a tackle. He gets out of another tackle. Now he's making a beeline towards the right field corner. What happens then? Is he going to jump over back into the stand to start running around the concourse? Is he going to hit a hard left and run on the warning track? Is he going to beat down the first baseline? What is your plan if you don't get caught? So when you make the decision to run on the field, are you making the decision of, I'm going to get caught? Or do you think, is it hey, I bet you I can run on the field and no one will catch me? So the guy runs on the field. He has now outran the security, right? And now he's making a beeline towards the right field corner. What is his plan at that moment? Well, whatever his plan was, the ball girl was having none of it, because the ball girl got up off of her seat, her little stool that she sits on in, the right field corner. She gets up and tackles this guy. I mean, absolutely took the dude down. You got 19 security guys chasing this clown around. They can't bring him down. The ball girl absolutely tattooed the guy and brought him down for the tackle. Go check out the video on our website, 973ESPN.com. But that is first off, Do you know anybody who has run onto the field? Do you know anybody in your circle of friends that has run onto the field? Because I do not. I don't have that friend that has run onto the field. Does anybody know somebody who has run out onto the field? That's one. Two, has anybody been to a game where somebody has run out onto the field? Because I don't even think I've ever been to a game where somebody has run out onto the field. Like, I've never actually seen somebody run out onto the field. Three, what is the actual plan when you run out onto the field? Has anybody actually thought about doing it and got cold feet? Have you been to a game like, I'm going to run onto the field tonight. I feel it in my bones. I'm going to run onto the field tonight. They're not going to get me. Right? It's amazing. Every time I see the video, and how come they only do it at baseball games? Right? You ever see anybody run on the field at a basketball game? The guy just streaks out onto the court, starts running around in circles. I get it. It's a small environment. You're going to get You're going to get your ass whipped at a basketball game. You run out on that court at a basketball game, you better be ready to get pummeled. The baseball, you got 45 seconds to 3 minutes to kind of run around before they finally, get the number. The numbers game comes into play here. One guy trying to outrun the security team, at some point, it's over for you. So you have to make the predestined decision. I'm going to, A, run on the field, one, and two, I know it's not going to end well for me. So what is the benefit? What is the gain? What is the mental? I want to meet someone who either ran onto the field or knows someone who ran onto the field. I want to know what the mental is. Now, there's a guy, he has a website, and it's all about him running onto the field at a baseball game, and apparently it's called runningthefield.com. Don't do it. So this guy, on May 5th, 2013, during a Toronto Blue Jays Seattle Mariners game, right? Could you pick a more nondescript game? At the Rogers Center in Toronto, he says, I did something that surprised both friends and family. I ran across the field during a live Major League Baseball game only to get tackled and arrested. Only to get tackled and arrested? What did you think was going to happen? Seriously, what did you think the outcome was going to be? Seriously, did you think you were just going to run around and then be like, all right, they're all tired. I'm going to go back to my seat. It was nice seeing everybody. He says, my act landed me in jail for a couple of hours, providing me with a glimpse into what it feels like to be criminally charged. To my astonishment, the Toronto Police Service did a great service by me, compromising an incredibly lighthearted, honest, and hilarious arrest report. My criminal defense attorney described it as far and away the best police synopsis I have ever read. Now that my charges have been dropped, I am able to share with you my experiences before, during, and after I broke the law. So on this website, this is a great website, by the way. It's runningthefield.com. And it says, throughout this, you will learn what went through my head right beforehand, the feeling of running on the field, being tackled and living to tell about it, dealing with Rogers Center security personnel and Toronto police, the transportation from the Rogers Center to the 52 division, the strip search and holding cell experience, being released on a promise to appear, attending court, dealing with the criminal defense attorney, the relief of having the criminal charges dropped. Before you read my story, he says, due to the fact that a criminal charge is levied against you, I once again must repeat, do not run the field. It's not worth it. Your ability to travel may be restricted. You will have to spend serious money on getting yourself properly represented while your case goes through the justice system. I plead with you, do not run on the field. It's a victimless crime. It simply isn't worth the risk you face. So the website tells the guy's whole story. It has their arrest report, which I didn't even click on yet. I got to read this arrest report. What does this say here? On May 5th, 2013, at approximately 3:18, the Toronto Blue Jays were surprisingly winning against the underrated Seattle Mariners. Our hapless Jays limped along to the bottom of the 8th inning. At one point, the Jays were considered World Series contenders. One almost forgive the accused for his below-described actions. This is a great police report. Luckily, the accused ran onto the field from level 100 and wasn't forced to jump from the 500 level out of sheer frustration. In any event, the accused before the court, Joseph Blank, in what could only be described in an attempt to inject some kind of spark into our listless Blue Jays, ran onto the field, interrupting the game, giving Jays fans a brief respite from their season-long agony. The accused was subsequently placed under arrest to applause, transported to 52 Division, where he was released. Now, that is playing along perfectly by the Toronto Mounties up there. That is great, the way they handled that. So I would love to get the insight. I would like to get that guy. Like, what was going on in your head, dude? Like, seriously. Now, that happened in 2013. It's probably 70. There's a picture of him running onto the field. I mean, he's got a pair of jeans on, a flannel shirt. He's wearing sunglasses. Like, he doesn't look like he's dressed for a baseball game. So the guy from the Dodger game the other day sprints out onto the field, and he's just running all over the place. And the Dodger security guys, they can't get him. And the girl, I mean, she whacks him. You got to go to our website and check this out. Watch the girl just absolutely take the guy. It almost looks like she has like some sort of like, I don't know, like karate background. Like she like looked like she took his legs out or something. Because she took him down pretty quickly and pretty good. I mean, he went he had to go face first down. And then, you know what ends up happening? Soon as they get their hands on you, like all the frustration of you making them run, which they probably none of which have done in quite some time. So the fact that you made the poor guys actually do some sort of work, they have all of that pent-up anger that you made me do something. So the second that guy hits the ground, that's when all of the laws of the land get thrown out the window, and the ambush of unnecessary punches start to probably come into play. Right? All of a sudden, you just start firing away. Boom, boom, boom. So both of those guys, moral of the story, both not Philadelphia sports fans, both unruly, both, or the guy at the Dodger game and the Mets fans fighting, all different. Now, in a separate post over at 973ESPN.com, check this out. So we know Philadelphia sports fans have a reputation of being a bit unruly at games, as we just chronicled. The boos come flying out of a Philadelphia sports fan's mouth as freely as someone saying hello when answering the cell phone. But according to Sports Handle, while most Philadelphia fans will boast that they can outdrink other fan bases and that it's one of the toughest places to play, it's not even close. Sports Handle surveyed over 2,000 football fans around the country to determine which NFL fans drink the most, and found out that Eagle fans ranked 26th on the NFL list for booziest fans. Eagles fans average 3.4 drinks per game and average spending about $37. So somebody said, well, that's because we're out pre-gaming in the Jethro lot. Well, according to the Sports Handle survey, the Eagles ranked 21st in the NFL for biggest pre-gamers. 55% of Eagles fans admit to drinking before the game starts, but they rank 26 for being the biggest lightweight drinkers in the league, with 28% of Eagle fans admitting they have missed some or all of a game due to drinking too much. Now, these are the 5 booziest NFL fan bases. 1, the Cincinnati Bengals. 2, the Baltimore Ravens. 3, the Buffalo Bills. 4, the Chicago Bears. And 5, the Carolina Panthers. Now, if you want to ask me my opinion, I feel like Sports Handle found some of the most laid-back Eagle fans and maybe didn't find their way over to the Jethro lot, which is M&N, where there's typically food, fun, flip cup, beer pong, this, that, and the other thing. That being said, I feel like Eagle fans have a reputation that is somewhat unrealistic. Text message, Mike, there are bad fans in every city, but Philly deserves the reputation they have. I mean, Danny Green doesn't say what he said in every city he played for. Yeah, I mean, are Eagles fans, Philly fans more vocal? Sure. They're not any more unruly than Chicago, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, or any place else that you go. I think they're more passionate and they are more they are just irrational. But that doesn't make them unruly. I feel like this whole thing of you can't go to a game, it's a scary place to go. I think that's anywhere. You go to a game wearing a jersey of something else in a lot of places. Not every place, not every time. Not every time. But those are just a couple examples right there. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. When we come back, the Summer Sixers, Ben Simmons, what's happening there? What's next in the NBA? Still plenty of stuff happening. Furkan Korkmaz, he signed his deal yesterday. Danny Green is back. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Some news on the Eagles. Tavon Wallace, he is out week to week, so that depth chart's going to have to be upgraded. We'll have the details at 4 o'clock during football at 4. Andre Dillard also listed as week to week. So it looks like Jordan Mailata has won that by default, even though he was winning pretty handily. When we come back, the real Michael Kasky-Blomain, yes, MKB from CBS Sports. All right, 323 Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. The Sixers summer team in action yesterday. Also, the offseason continues. They've made a lot of moves. We're going to kind of look at them, plus some interesting things surrounding Ben Simmons. Michael Kasky-Blomain, CBS Sports, set to join us here on the Sports Bash on a Tuesday, as obviously there's a lot surrounding Ben Simmons yet again. MKB, what's going on? How are you, pal?
What's up, Mike? I'm doing well. How are you?
All is good, man. I know you were on vacation. Hopefully all that went well for you. But while you were gone, a lot of stuff happening and continues to go on. So let's start with the latest on Ben Simmons, with Kendrick Perkins laying maybe kind of a bomb yesterday. I don't know how much of that is actually accurate, but he's saying, hey, listen, I'm hearing he's willing to not show up for training camp. That would put the Sixers in a little bit of a precarious situation, would it not?
Yeah, it absolutely would, Mike, because they've been operating, under the impression that they technically could bring Ben back into the fold at the start of next season if, a deal that they like doesn't materialize over this offseason. I think they've been operating feeling that they could do that and they could bring him back and they would, at least be able to start the season as a cohesive unit and progress and see how things go from there. But obviously, if Ben's at the point now where he doesn't even want to report for training camp, it puts the Sixers in a difficult spot and really leaves them with only one of two options. You either, bring him back and run the risk of him being unhappy and potentially poisoning the locker room, or you basically make yourself find a deal for him before the season starts, even if it's not necessarily, the exact type of deal that you were initially hoping for. So it's definitely throws a wrench in their plans if that is, in fact, accurate.
Yeah, I don't know. That's Kendrick Perkins, a guy who has, he's been a player in the league. I'm sure he has some sort of connections. He said Ben Simmons is not answering the phone calls. He's not the first person to say that. That has been reported. If he's not answering the phone calls, he don't want to be with the Sixers. And from what I heard, this is Kendrick Perkins, says he's willing to not report to training camp and will go as long as it takes for him to get out of Philly. Are we at the point now where we're starting to think that Ben Simmons does not want to be here?
Mike, obviously I haven't talked to Ben personally, so it's tough to address that. I can tell you from what I heard, though, that he was, definitely bothered by the way things kind of transpired at the end of this past season. Obviously, he was disappointed in his own play, of course. But, I've heard he was also disappointed with the way that, Joel kind of went out of his way to point the finger at him in that post-game press conference that you and I, after Game 7, we were both there, that Doc didn't necessarily, stick up for him to the same manner that he had throughout the course of the season. And then, of course, Ben doesn't pay too much attention to social media from what I've heard, but it's basically been impossible for him not to hear the chatter and the buzz from the Philadelphia fans and things like that, and the media members saying that the Sixers need to trade him and this and that. And I think he's at a point right now where his ego is definitely shaken a little bit. His confidence is a little shaken a bit. And I think he's a little bit hurt by the fact that the organization didn't necessarily, publicly have his back after what was obviously a very tough and underwhelming series for him. So, I don't know if he's at the point where he's ready to cut all ties with the organization completely. But, I have heard that he is kind of upset with the situation, and that's probably why, there's been reports that he's keeping his distance so far, this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, he has not done himself any favors, let's say that. And I'm no Ben Simmons hater by any stretch of the imagination. But for him to be able to, for him to come out and basically say, well, I don't want to, I'm not taking calls. I'm not even going to try to mend. I think they've been pretty good to him, right? I mean, this is kind of, if he's not answering the calls and basically saying I wouldn't report, that is kind of small on Ben's part.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there, Mike. And again, I don't know if that's true, but if that is the case, I think it's going to take him to look in the mirror. This obviously all starts with, him underperforming, for lack of a better word, in that playoff series against Atlanta. Even if he had done a couple, been a little bit more aggressive down the stretch, obviously that passed up dunk, a little bit better from the foul line. And this would have been a non-topic heading into the offseason. I think his play and now what perceives to be kind of a lack of accountability on his end, if it is true that he's not, not taking the calls, not wanting to have anything else to do with the team, that's an indictment on him. And I think to an extent his character and the fact that he needs to be able to, admit that this all starts with his play. And until he does that, it's really tough to tell in what direction both he and the Sixers can kind of move forward.
Michael Kasky-Blomain at The Real Mike KB. CBS Sports covers the NBA and the Sixers. Another Simmons video, which is 3 summers in a row of him shooting the three. This one, he's with Rondo. And I don't have a problem. Like, okay, I'm working. The problem I have is, Michael, you're working your ass off shooting threes for 3 summers in a row and have never utilized that shot in a game. So you're essentially wasting your time. Show us a video of you working on something else. Like, how about a free throw? Like, I don't mind if he put him making 90 out of 100 free throws. I'd say at least he's working on something that he will utilize. But the frustration, I think, comes from because I don't believe he can't make it. It's that he won't take it.
Yeah, that's 100% right, Mike. And I think that's why this time you're seeing, that video has been circulating and the reaction has been overwhelmingly negative or, kind of sarcastic, tongue-in-cheek. And I think for that exact reason, a couple years ago when the first video of him, pulling up threes and hitting threes surfaced, it was exciting because we're like, oh, we haven't seen this yet. Hopefully this translates next season. He could take a huge step forward. But like you said, that obviously hasn't been the case for the past couple seasons. And now at this point, I think everyone is just kind of over it, until it actually materializes in a game. To him, to see the same thing over and over again. Like we've talked about this before. Anyone that's been to the warm-ups for a Sixers game at Wells Fargo Center knows that he's capable of making threes. He does it regularly, routinely. He'll make several in a row from the corners, from the wing, and then once the ball gets tipped, he just doesn't do it. So it's at that point where he just needs to make that transition from doing it in these practice videos and getting that confidence to it translating on the court. And I did think the fact that he was working with Rondo was a little interesting. If you're looking to get your 3-point skills up, he's not necessarily the first guy that would, come to my mind to be a guy that you'd want to practice with. But like you said, I mean, hopefully this is the year that it finally translates. But until it does.
Let me interject on the Rondo thing. Does that add some credibility? Is that, hey, he's working with many people respect Rondo as like a future coach, and that's someone who is very smart. Does it kind of add that it's not just Simmons doing this on his own, that he's actually with another guy who can say, look, you're struggling at this, I'm struggling at this, let's do this together? Does that add any credence to this?
Yeah, I think it does, Mike. I think anytime when you see a guy working out with other NBA players as opposed to just trainers or, his personal staff, I do think that adds a level of credence to it. And a guy like Rondo, I joked he's obviously not the best 3-point shooter, but in a way, I do think he could actually be useful to working with Ben because he is a guy that has improved that his shot and his 3-point shot over the course of his career. He came in the league as a guy that shot in the, right around 25% from 3 with the Celtics early on. And he's by no means Steph Curry at this point, but he's bumped that average up to well over, 30% for his career. I think he was over 40% the last couple of years. So he's definitely a guy that's improved his shot. And if he, like you said, he has that kind of coach, he's a veteran, that sort of mental or mentorship thing going on. And if he can kind of give Ben some advice on how to follow in his footsteps in terms of improving his shot, it's worth a shot at least, I guess.
Okay, so you said it. The fans were very tongue-in-cheek. They were kind of not happy with, okay, we've seen this. It goes back to the Fultz video. We saw the Fultz videos, and that never happened. And then, so the fans are tired of seeing these little nuggets put out there. But if Ben Simmons put out a video of him at the free throw line shooting 100 free throws, do you think that would get the same reaction? Or do you think people would at least say, all right, you're working on something that we can see the fruits of your labor come game time?
Yeah, I do think the reaction would be a little bit different, Mike. And I think basically what you said would be the thing, because basically you got to crawl before you walk. And I think to me and a lot of people, we're watching Ben come off a series where he, literally couldn't even make a free throw and didn't have the confidence to step up and do it. So it seems to kind of be a leap to, to me or to an average fan to say, all right, he's going to go from that to next season. He's going to come out and be pulling up these threes that we're seeing him make in the video. Whereas if he's on the foul line and putting in 100, 200, 300 shots a day, that's going to come in handy because he's a physical, strong player and he's going to get fouled. That's a definite. Is he going to shoot threes? That's obviously not a definite. So I do think, if it was him working on a different skill, the reaction would be a little different as opposed to the same video that now we've seen, multiple summers in a row that hasn't yet panned out in games.
MKB, all right, Summer Sixers in action yesterday. Maxey, man among boys out there. I wouldn't even be surprised if they shut him down or if he plays maybe one more game. He's just so much better than everyone out there. But that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I think that's what you want to see from a guy like Maxey. Usually second-year guys, if they're legitimate NBA players, they definitely start to separate themselves in summer league compared to, some of the rookies and the unsigned guys and the two-way guys. And I think that's exactly what we saw from Maxey yesterday. To me, he was, far and away the best player on the court in that game. He looked really confident with the ball in his hands, pulling up, making plays for other guys. So I think, he'll probably play in the next couple games. I wouldn't be shocked if the Sixers cut his minutes back a little bit to, just make sure he's healthy. But to me, it was a really promising thing because he's a guy that, not only do the fans want to see more of next year, I think the Sixers, given the fact that they've, stood pretty pat in terms of their roster construction compared to last year, he's a guy that could really be an X factor for them if he's able to, take another step forward for them next year. So seeing what he was able to do in that summer league, to me, was definitely a pretty promising sign.
Yeah, I mean, he dominated in the game, and I think you might have tweeted this out. Like, he could be their six-man instant offense off the bench. He might usurp Shake Milton's role from last year if he continues to develop and show throughout this summer. So saw good things from him. Isaiah Joe, what is the expectation from him? He obviously is a guy who's a shooter. People would think of him as a one-dimensional guy. So what are you looking forward for from him in the summer league, and what is your expectation for him in the rotation, not a rotational player?
Yeah, it's tough, Mike. I think at the beginning of the year, sorry about that. I got disconnected for a second. I think, coming into the year, I think it's going to be hard for him to get the minutes that, solid minutes that are going to be there consistently. I think he's the type of guy that, given his ability to spread the floor with his shot that we saw some of yesterday in that summer league game, he's going to be a guy potentially like Korkmaz was a couple years ago, where he's going to get some spot minutes just because of his ability to space the floor, around Joel, around Ben. And if he's able to develop around the edges, other parts of his game, he is the type of guy that has the skill set that could potentially crack the rotation. And, the Sixers obviously didn't do much to bolster their bench yet, in free agency or in trades. It's a lot of the same guys that, we saw last year. And with that being the case, I think there will be opportunity for a guy like Isaiah Joe or obviously Maxey that we just talked about to really step up and grab some of those minutes that should be available.
The other guy's Paul Reed, looking for, I guess what you're looking for him in these summer league games, Michael, is can he step out? Can he stretch? Can he be a stretch four kind of guy?
Yeah, I think he can, Mike. I mean, he has that ability, obviously, to stretch the floor. He has nice size. I think, obviously, bringing in Andre Drummond as the backup to Joel is going to limit his production and his opportunity on the court a little bit. But I do think the Sixers are high on what he can bring to the floor. Obviously, he showed off his athleticism, had a nice dunk yesterday, a couple other nice plays. So I think he's a little bit raw still to be a type of guy that could get, consistent minutes, especially in a Doc Rivers lineup with a team that is expected to contend for a title. But to me, the main takeaway I had watching that game is that the Sixers really do have a lot of promising young talent, which is kind of impressive when you consider, how many pieces and things that they've had to give away over the past couple of years to kind of build into the team that they have now. But the fact that they're able to, they have young guys like Maxey, like Paul Reed, like Isaiah Joe. Obviously, we didn't even talk about Springer, who made his debut yesterday. I think, they have a pipeline of young talent, which is going to be, really important moving forward as they continue to try to, be a contender, but also keep young blood in the rotation.
Yeah, and you mentioned Springer. He was the first-round pick this year. I guess Bassey, was there something wrong with him? Why was he not able to really get any minutes yesterday? Because he was a guy I was kind of excited about.
Yeah, that's a good question, Mike. I was kind of surprised by that also. I didn't get any explanation specifically as to why the playing time was so low. I do think he's going to be a guy that plays, more in the summer league moving forward. And I think that's, a lot of the fans like yourself want to see, what he can bring to the floor. But, moving forward, hopefully he gets some more time in these games.
All right. Summer League Sixers continue. We'll have more on our website, 973ESPN.com. Korkmaz signed. That's official now. 3 years, $15 million for him. What'd you think of Drummond and Yang?
Yeah, neither one were, super exciting moves to me. I thought Drummond was a bit of an upgrade from Dwight Howard, at least on the offensive end. I was surprised, obviously, given the history between him and Joel and the fact that, he just turned 28 today, Andre Drummond. Today's his birthday, actually. Still just 28, a two-time All-Star, a guy that started in basically every game that he's played in his career since his rookie year. For him to be willing to come in and take a backup role to Joel, I thought was pretty surprising. But, obviously I thought Dwight last year was the best backup that Joel's had since, that he was drafted. And the fact that, he's going to miss time. He's going to miss some games, even if he's healthy. The Sixers obviously like to be cautious with him. And I think having a reliable backup like Dwight was last year, like I think Drummond can be, is, it's huge for the team. So I did think that was a good move. And Yang obviously is a guy that's going to come in. We saw him in Utah. He can space the floor, kind of take that Mike Scott role, but be, hopefully a little bit more consistent from long range. So, I thought they were solid moves, not huge, moves that really take the team up another level, but I thought they were solid moves along the line. And, the way they're constructed right now, I think a lot of it's going to just have to be internal improvement, unless a Ben Simmons trade comes up on the horizon before the season starts. It's going to be up to a lot of the guys like we were talking about, Maxey taking a step forward, Matisse taking a step forward, Ben, Joel, those guys just continuing to develop, or, otherwise it's going to be a very similar team to what we saw last year, I think.
Michael, we'll leave you with this. Simmons is a very hot topic. The comments from Perkins yesterday certainly muddied the waters a little bit. Are you feeling any differently about Simmons' potential future now?
Yeah, Mike, a little bit. I think it would be hard not to. Again, obviously, I don't know how much truth is behind that report from Kendrick Perkins and some of the other things. But, if it is true that Ben is at a point now where he's questioning his future with the Sixers, that, it's definitely different. I've been kind of under the impression that the Sixers were, shooting for the stars in a Simmons trade, but if they weren't able to capitalize on something this summer, that they were going to bring him back, start the season with the same starting five as they had last year, go from there, see if, maybe he was able to improve, or if not, maybe he would at least bump his stock up a little bit compared to how he ended the season. But like we were saying earlier, if he's not interested in that changes the game completely. So, for the rest of this next month or month and a half, it's going to be really interesting to see how Ben feels about the situation, because he doesn't have much leverage in terms of where he can go in a trade, but he does have leverage in terms of if he doesn't want to be here, he could put the organization in a really difficult spot.
Well, you could look at a situation similarly to what happened with James Harden, where he didn't want to be there and they didn't want to trade him. And then it was just a complete charade, once the season kind of started.
Right, and I don't think the Sixers want that. And I think you see, in the NBA, most of the time, the star player, when it comes to a guy wanting a trade, if that's where Ben's at, most of the time they get their way, whether or not it's, he might not get to choose where he goes. But if he wants off the Sixers and he makes that clear, I think it's more than likely that they'll oblige ultimately.
Okay, we'll keep our eyes on that. And obviously, Dame Lillard, we'll see what happens now that the Olympics are over. Does that change that whole scenario? And obviously Bradley Beal, he'll be back from the Olympics as well. Michael Kasky-Blomain at The Real Mike KB from CBS Sports covers the NBA. The NBA Summer League is going on all right now. We'll have you up to date on that and more. MKB, man, always appreciate it, pal.
Thanks, Mike. Good talking to you, man. Have a good week.
You do the same. There's Michael Kasky-Blomain here on the Sports Bash. And, of course, MKB covers the league nationally, covers the Sixers for CBS Sports. He was our 97.3 ESPN Sixers insider for a couple of seasons before moving on to the national scene. He does a great job covering the NBA with a unique view of the Sixers. There's that Ben Simmons conversation. It just won't go away, as we know. By the way, coming up on the other side, a very important player to the Eagles Super Bowl team retired today. I got the details coming up on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, where you can download the free mobile app. It's free in the Apple Store or Google Play. You can watch the show live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and also you can check out the messaging feature where you can message us through the free mobile app. Just open up the app, hit the message us button, and you can send a message right to the 97.3 ESPN studios. And if you choose to do, we will read those off, as well as our text messages at 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. I got some text messages I'm going to read off when we come back. All right, 346 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Thanks to MKB. Michael Kasky-Blomain, CBS Sports, jumping on board with us. I told you on the other side, a hero, you can make an argument that it was the biggest play in the NFC Championship game back in 2018, I guess, was when the game actually took place. Actually, was that game in December? Nah, it was probably January. It was January. But it happened early in the game when veteran cornerback Patrick Robinson intercepted a pass and took it to the house for the Eagles. And he is responsible for what I have been told is maybe the loudest moment in history at Lincoln Financial Field. Now, Patrick Robinson only spent 1 year in Philadelphia. 1 year in Philadelphia. But we will always, 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 always remember the moment that he stepped onto the field when Case Keenum went back to pass, and then this happened. Joe Buck with a call on Fox. And at that moment, if you remember, the Vikings were leading that game 7-0, and they had the ball back. And then Case Keenum goes back to throw, and Robinson picks that off. And it's not like Robinson had a clear path to the end zone. He picked off the pass. He had to go 50 yards. He gets a 50-yard interception return for a touchdown. It is, holy mackerel, one of the biggest plays in the history of the franchise. And at that moment, you're like, wow, the Eagles go on and steamroll the Vikings. They win 38-7, and of course they go on to win the Super Bowl that year. But it's an unforgettable moment. And when I just saw the tweet, it was put out, the first one that I saw was from Ann Rappaport. And at that moment, when I saw that the first thing I thought of, so today I have seen Jimmy Rollins with the base-clearing double against the Dodgers in the NLCS from a couple of years ago to put them 3-1. And now the news on Patrick Robinson retiring and the video, watching that, it's unbelievable seeing that video and Robinson running now. He only spent 1 year with the Philadelphia Eagles. He then moved on to the Saints, who drafted Robinson in the 2010 draft in the first round out of Florida State, And Robinson was, I would say, somewhat of a disappointment as a first-round pick. He kind of bounced around the league. He was never really a top flight corner. But that was the year that I know you guys hate Howie Roseman, but he hit a home run on almost every signing. And Patrick Robinson was one of those signings that he hit a home run on. I mean, he hit a home run with Patrick Robinson, who that year was the nickel corner. He had 4 interceptions. He had 18 passes defended, 47 tackles. He had a sack. But that interception in the NFC Championship game against the Minnesota Vikings is one of the most memorable moments in watching football if you're an Eagles fan ever. We go back to, I always say, the Brandon Graham strip sack is the greatest play in the history of the franchise. That's the best play ever for me. It might not be for you. It's the greatest play in the history of the franchise for me. That strip sack. But the play that you can make an argument that maybe they don't get to that game because he intercepts that pass. Robinson, right? Robinson intercepts the pass and bedlam happens. That stadium just absolutely shakes after that whole situation. It absolutely is rocking after that. So Patrick Robinson picks that pass off. He takes it to the house. But I think if you watch and we have the video, we'll have it up on our website in just a couple of minutes here. You see what he did to get to the end zone, right? He catches the ball. He's weaving in and out of guys. He catches a block. You hear Buck say, he gets a block, and he's running up he starts all the way on the left hash. When he picks that ball off at the 50-yard line, it's a slot. He steps. I don't know where Keenum's throwing the ball. It's a horrible throw. But he's got 3, 4. He's got 5. Now he's outrunning. He goes all the way to the other sideline. He cuts up. When he gets into the end zone, he literally almost gets pushed out of bounds. Oh, the link was rocking after that play, man. Holy mackerel, goosebumps. Talking about that play, watching that play, thinking about that play. Football starts tomorrow night. Actually, Eagles football, I should say. A couple of games have already happened. It is one of the biggest plays ever. It is one of the greatest moments ever. And look, if you go back to that play, you can make an argument that play is how they win the Super Bowl because of that. One of the biggest plays in the history of the franchise. It happened in the NFC Championship game. Patrick Robinson picks off Case Keenum's pass, a 50-yard interception return for a touchdown. Beautiful. And after 11 years, it's an unforgettable Super Bowl run. He is absolutely – look, he is kind of a nondescript legend, right, in this town? When you think about it, if I say Patrick Robinson, most people don't even know who that is. Guess what? He's the guy who intercepted the pass in the NFC Championship game. That's who he is. Oh, he is like – he would be akin to Matt Stairs, right? Patrick Robinson is Matt Stairs in the football version. Matt Stairs played, like a season or two with the Phillies? He comes off the bench and pops a bomb. Patrick Robinson's play is the Matt Stairs play. Stairs does it in the NLCS. Robinson does it in the NFL, the NFC Championship game. Patrick Robinson is the Matt Stairs of the Eagles. To put it in perspective, short terms with the team. Now, Robinson only played 1 year with the team. Stairs came back to be a broadcaster. I think he was with the team. How long did Stairs stick around after that particular season? He came over in a trade that year, Matt Stairs did, so he wasn't even here all that long. Now, of course, Matt Stairs came back as a hitting coach. Yeah, he only played in 2008. He only played 16 games with the Phillies. And then the next year, he was back again for 99 games with the Phillies. So Stairs had a very short run in Philly, but the home run that he hits is one of the more memorable moments that you'll ever. So what's more memorable, Stairs' homer or Robinson's interception? Think about that one. Both those plays are hair on the arm sticking up moments. I'm watching this Robinson play on repeat. Look at this move that he makes. He gets the block. Who gets the block right there? Oh, man, whoever got the block got laid out, but him getting laid out was enough for, oh, man, Patrick Robinson. He retired today. We're starting to get old. The players from that team are starting to call it a career. Chris Long, Patrick Robinson, LeGarrette Blount. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Coming up, it's football at 4. I'll ask Andrew to check out how important that Patrick Robinson. I think they don't win that. They might not. They might. I mean, it was 7-0, but they were driving. They were driving. This is Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast and brought to you by PropSwap, where America buys and sells sports bets. Go to PropSwap.com, download the PropSwap app today. Andrew DeCecco is here as we take a look at some of the news and notes. There's a couple big injury things at Eagles camp today. We'll have that day 10 in the books at Eagles camp, and Andrew DeCecco is here to kind of give us some thoughts and observations on everything that he's hearing and seeing at Eagles camp. But I guess, Andrew, I do want to start with the news that just came out of New Orleans, where Patrick Robinson announced his retirement today. And I'll just ask you, if I say Patrick Robinson, there's only one thing that can come to mind, correct?
Yeah, the interception against the Vikings that he returned for a touchdown.
It is one of the
ties to that game.
It is one of the greatest moments ever, right? I mean, it is one of the most memorable moments in the history of the franchise. Like him stepping in front, and then the return. I mean, he takes it from the left hash to the right, up the sideline. He gets the block. I don't think people remember the noise in that stadium when Patrick Robinson, and I kind of likened it to when Matt Stairs hit that home run against the Dodgers. It's like one of the more nondescript players with one of the biggest. Like if I said to someone, "Hey, remember Patrick Robinson?" They'd be like, "Who?" But the fact that he made that interception, you can never forget that guy.
Yeah, he's forever part of Eagles history, and that play right there turned the tide of that game. You know, remember it didn't start out too well. I believe Najee Good was beat for a touchdown, but I think it was Kyle Rudolph, and you started to get that feeling like, here we go again. But you know what? That interception changed everything.
Yeah, it sure did. The Eagles went on to win. That game, remember, that game was 7-0, and the Vikings had the ball. He takes that back to the house. It's then 7-7, and then they just absolutely took over from there. They win 38-7. By the way, it was Ronald Darby who was trying to block. Now, he didn't really block.
He got lit up.
Yeah, he got lit up on the play, but it was enough to spring Robinson. And, man, I remember that play vividly, where I was, what was going on. And after that, it was a euphoric moment as the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. Well, Andrew, they're trying to work their way back there with the new team. Let's take a look at some of the things that are happening. One, I guess the left tackle spot is now officially going to be Mailata because the team is going to be without Andre Dillard with a knee injury.
Yeah, if there was ever any doubt, the competition is over, and Jordan Mailata has won the battle, so to speak. I mean, it was never really a battle to begin with, Mike. It was they alternated the two players throughout practice. They gave each looks with the first team, and Jordan Mailata was just so far ahead in that race and so dominant and taking advantage of just his athletic traits and his size, and just bullying defensive ends, and he just had to love his upside. Whereas Andre Dillard never really took the next step in his progression. You know, he only had 16 games under his belt, and he had a whole offseason to sort of find his footing and get stronger. And he said all the right things in the offseason, but it never really transpired onto the football field. He still struggled to anchor. His play strength was always in question, and he struggled with against Derek Barnett and Josh Sweat. And, you know, he was one of the players I was really looking forward to seeing in the preseason to see if he was a guy that really just needed the reps to sort of turn the corner. But now we won't be afforded that opportunity.
Yeah, so Dillard is week to week now with a knee injury. He's out. Also week to week with a knee injury is Kayvon Wallace. This is possibly a bigger injury for the team because he was on the depth chart at the number 1 spot. We know McLeod is kind of cloudy on what his future this season will be, whether he'll be ready for the start of the season or not. But how big is losing Wallace?
Right, yeah, and by all accounts, Rodney McLeod expects to play week 1, but and I sort of envision Kayvon Wallace as playing the Corey Graham role from 2017 as that third safety, and you know, a very prominent role player. But when you look at Kayvon Wallace, he really needed these reps. Both him and a player like Davion Taylor really could have benefited from these preseason reps that are so valuable. They didn't have the preseason last year as rookies. So when I looked at Kayvon Wallace and who he was going up against, he was vying for that third spot with Marcus Epps. When you look at what both players were able to accomplish last season, Marcus Epps played 364 snaps, which was about 33% of the defensive total, and Kayvon Wallace, in a banged-up secondary, was only able to accumulate 202 snaps, which was roughly 18% of the defensive total. When you look at that, you really wanted to see what he was able to do with a full offseason and if he was able to take the reins and really put his stamp on that third spot. And now the next man up is going to be Marcus Epps, also a guy like Elijah Riley and a veteran like Andrew Adams, who has played in 73 games, 32 of them being starts, as a veteran player, he also is going to be the beneficiary of an increased reps situation.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what happens at that safety spot now, because Harris and McLeod are two good ones. A lot of young players behind them, as you just kind of chronicled there, Andrew. So obviously some interesting stuff today at practice. By the way, 11 day. This is the 11th day, day 11 in the books for the Eagles. Nick Sirianni he didn't name Jalen Hurts his starter just yet, but he did admit that he will play on Thursday night and he will go with the starters. So what do we anticipate seeing from Jalen Hurts? How much? And do you think they'll give him an opportunity to kind of show what he can do, or do they scale it back for him?
Well, it's certainly the right move to give Jalen some reps. He's another player along the lines of, I mentioned, Devonta and Kayvon Wallace. Well, Jalen Hurts is another player that's going to be really, he needs to get these game reps. And I don't know that you're going to see a lot of Jalen, but I think that what you're going to see is very vanilla. They're not going to tip their hand. Nick Sirianni and his staff isn't really going to tip their hand much as far as what the offense is going to look like, some of the designs that they have for Jalen. But you're going to see him get out there, take a hit or two and deliver the football, to get a feel for his pass catchers. And then if I were the Eagles, I would get him out of the game and turn the reins over to Joe Flacco and Nick Mullins, because Jalen's your guy moving forward, whether or not they're readily going to admit it right now or not. And, barring something unforeseen the next couple of weeks here. And why expose him to injury if you don't have to?
Yeah, and I know that the interesting part would be, later on, they only have 3 quarterbacks in camp. I mean, how much game time are you going to give to Flacco in a preseason game? So are we anticipating seeing a lot of Nick Mullins, or does that just mean, we're going to let Hurts get some reps in these preseason games?
No, I think you're going to see a lot of Nick Mullins over these next 3 games. And he's a player that, a lot of times when you see a lot of these young quarterbacks in the preseason, the wide receivers are really at a disadvantage because these young quarterbacks aren't able to find wide open guys. The game's moving very fast for them, and they're not able to go through their progressions. But Nick Mullins is a guy who's won games in the NFL, and he's going to be playing with guys like Quez Watkins and John Hightower and some of those depth guys that are really going to need to put their best foot forward, so to speak, in the preseason. And now you're going to have a capable quarterback delivering the football. And I think it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be a lot more watchable than it has been in past years.
Yeah, and we see the depth chart is out today. Devonta Smith is the leader there. He's obviously not going to play, which means Travis Fulgham, John Hightower going to get some reps there. Greg Ward is listed as the slot guy. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is listed as the backup slot. Rieger Watkins. I would imagine that all eyes are going to be on, I guess, Watkins. Is he the receiver that you're interested to see the most on Thursday night, or is there another guy in that crew that you want to see something from?
Watkins, I would like to see how they're going to use him, because he's such a dynamic player that you almost want to see, do they have a specific package for him? He's so improved as a route runner, and he has just natural hands. But I've seen a lot of highlights from him, and I saw him in person last week when I was there. But John Hightower, to me, is a player that I really want to see, because he's never had a problem getting open. He's a very crafty route runner, very quick and out of his release. But tracking the football has always been an adventure with him, right? I mean, he was thrust into the lineup early, looked like he was overwhelmed a little bit last season, but he was able to get open, which is one of the hardest things that you can ask for a young receiver. But now you want to see, can he put it all together and become a more complete player, which it has yet to be seen. But, I mean, he's going to have every opportunity to do so.
Are you at the point where you have given up on Arcega-Whiteside, or do you want to see him? Are you going to be, somebody you're going to be keeping an eye on Thursday night, or are you kind of past, waiting for him?
Well, I don't know how much you're going to be able to gauge from the group, the offensive group that J.J. is going to be out there playing with. I mean, being a former second-round pick, he's supposed to go out there and dominate secondaries with Nick Mullins and company. Based on where he sits on the depth chart, he's not really going to be playing against top-tier starting caliber players, I should say. So it's going to have to be it would be more alarming if he's not producing. He's also going to need to show that he can step up and place and deliver on special teams, because when you're looking at that final roster spot and you're trying to encourage the Eagles or tip, make them want to keep 6 players, I mean, you got to show that you can contribute on the third, in the third phase if you want to stick.
Yep, that's those wide receivers are going to be very interesting throughout this camp with no Devonta Smith. Obviously, that gives a lot of these guys a chance to kind of prove their worth out there. Obviously, we kind of touched on the left tackle position. We think that's really closed, sealed right now, and we thought Mailata was going to win it. But what about the way they use the tight ends? Do you think we'll get any clue as to what they're going to do? They are both listed as starters on the depth chart.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you're going to see much of anything from Goddard or Ertz, and one way or the other. You're not going to have any idea of how they're going to be deployed, any specific roles for these guys. I think it's going to be kind of cut and dry. Zach Ertz, if he's on the roster, and right now he is, he's going to be that short to intermediate guy that's going to move the chains, good route runner, durable, but he's not going to break the big one, right? He's not going to break tackles and create that yak after the, when he's on the move and everything. But I think with Dallas Goedert, he's going to be the more explosive of the two players, the better blocker. He's going to threaten teams vertically. He's going to break tackles. He's going to be more of the red zone presence. But I think you're going to see a lot of guys like a Richard Rodgers and a Tyree Jackson and Jack Stoll see a majority of the reps on Thursday.
Obviously, the running back game, too. We're all kind of interested in that. I know that's something that you're going to have your eye on with Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott and how they use Howard and Kerryon Johnson. But how many running backs do you anticipate making this roster, and what are you looking at that group for Thursday night?
Well, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they keep 5. And I'm going to have a more detailed observation and as far as the players that I'm going to be watching tomorrow morning when it comes on InsideTheBirds.com. But I mean, I could very easily see them keeping 5 because I think they're going to all have these certain roles that they're going to be slotted in. You're going to have your early down runner and your primary running back in Miles Sanders, but you're also going to have specialist type of runners like a Jordan Howard who can be that short yardage guy. Not going to break a home run or anything like that, but he's going to be able to grind out those tough yards and maybe run the clock out. Then you're going to have a Kerryon Johnson. They're sort of vying for the same role there, I would say. And then you have the change-up guys in Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell. And you have Jason Huntley, who's really impressed me a little bit with his burst and explosiveness, which is what allured the Eagles to kind of snag him off waivers before the season started last year. He's another guy that can contribute as a kick returner on special teams. So he has a little bit of a dual purpose there. So we'll see how that goes. I'm really interested to see him in the preseason games.
Yeah, me too. I'm also very interested, Andrew, looking at just Nick Sirianni and the way, the pace of the offense and what he looks like and how he, this is the first time he's really going to be a play caller. So we're going to get that opportunity to see what kind of tempo, pace that they kind of roll with here.
Yeah, and again, I'm not even sure how much you're going to be able to take away from this. I think that it's all new for everyone, and I don't know that they're going to tip their hand one way or the other from a gamesmanship perspective. It'll be good for Nick Sirianni to get his first game under his belt, and a lot of the young players to get that experience and get those much needed reps against someone that's not your teammate, and then most importantly, emerge from the preseason healthy.
All right, defensive side of the ball. Let's take a look over there because obviously Sirianni is the head coach, and he doesn't get asked a lot of defensive questions during these pressers that he did get a chance to talk today. But that being said, we talked about Kayvon Wallace. The secondary is going to be interesting because Nelson and Slay, you got those two. What else do we expect to see with the rest of the secondary out there? Who are some guys on Thursday night for fans to keep an eye on? Some of the younger, unheralded guys that I guess are battling for playing time, but roster spots.
Well, you're going to want to keep an eye on Josiah Scott, the nickel corner who was acquired from the Jacksonville Jaguars, former 4th-round pick. He's someone that has some upside there. I can very easily see them keeping him on as a backup nickel corner to Avonte Maddox, where you can use Avonte Maddox a number of ways as a positionless type defender. You can play some safety and play some and give teams different types of looks. So I think having a guy like Josiah Scott would have a lot of value. Would add a lot of value to the position. Craig James is someone who's a really strong special teams player, one of the better gunners in football. The Eagles really like him. He can play outside and he can play inside. And of course, Zach McPherson's been one of the stars of training camp. We want to see what he can do, if he's going to be able to carry that momentum over into the games. Very tough physical player, very high football IQ. And he's one of the players that I'm most excited to see in game action.
I thought the unofficial depth chart was interesting because it lists Jannard Avery as a starter at the Sam spot. But how much playing time does that guy get, and what kind of role does that guy have?
Yeah, I'm not sure how often you're going to see Jannard Avery in coverage. I don't know that that's necessarily his forte. I think he's going to be if he makes the team, that is, he's going to be a rotational player coming in off the edge, much like a Joe Osman. Again, these are guys that are on the roster fringe. Their Eagles are going to be primarily a 2-linebacker team, and by all accounts, that's going to be Alex Singleton and Eric Wilson. And we'll see what happens, because you also have guys like T.J. Edwards and Sean Bradley that are there. Obviously, guys like Jacoby Stevens and Davion Taylor are sidelined, so they're not going to be factored into the equation. But I think by default, Jannard Avery becomes the next guy up. But I wouldn't read too much into it. I don't know how well he's going to be able to hold up in space. I think he's going to be more of an edge rusher, kind of coming off the edge there. So We'll see how that goes.
Because all three of the guys at the Sam spot were kind of those hybrid guys, right? Osman was the other one. I think who was the third one? Was Tyron Jackson, the draft pick. So, Patrick Johnson. Right. So all three of those guys are kind of like hybrid ends. So it feels like if they're on the field, they're probably out there for one reason.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's going to look vastly different when you have guys like Davion Taylor back in the lineup, and Jacoby Stevens, I do believe, is going to make the roster. Obviously, he's missing some valuable time, as I outlined, but I think he can provide a lot from the special team standpoint. He's also a developmental player that I don't know if you want to expose him to waivers, because another team might look at his upside and be willing to be able to wait for him to sort of develop at the back end of the roster. So I don't know. He's someone that I think you should stash at the back end of your roster if you have the room. So I think it's going to look a lot different. But right now, with the limited amount of resources, I think Jannard Avery's the next guy up for that Sam spot.
Yep, and you got Brandon Graham, Ryan Kerrigan back up there. It'll be interesting because a lot of these guys, Andrew, are veterans on the defensive line anyway. Like how are they going to utilize the defensive ends? We got Brandon Graham, Ryan Kerrigan, you got Barnett and Sweat. You got a lot of young guys, a lot of older guys, and not a lot of depth behind them. So it's going to be interesting to see how he utilizes this depth chart throughout these preseason games.
Yeah, I think someone like Teron Jackson from Coast Carolina is going to see a lot of reps. I don't know that you need to put Ryan Kerrigan out there or Josh Sweat out there, Derek Barnett out there, and give them such an extended look and expose them to potential injury. I think someone like Teron Jackson, who really is trying to make a case for them to keep 5 defensive ends, really needs to go out there and take all the reps that he can handle. And you're going to see Milton Williams out there a lot, who can also play some defensive end along with his defensive tackle spot. Hassan Ridgeway, and a number of the other young defensive tackles, Raekwon Williams. You're going to see a lot of those guys because the top 4 defensive ends are really etched in stone already. The top 2 defensive tackles are as well. So you're going to see a lot of Marlon. You're going to see a lot of Milton Williams. You're going to see a lot of Teron Jackson, I would assume.
Yeah, and you just kind of mentioned some of these younger players. Milton Williams, 3rd-round pick. I hope we get a chance to get to see a lot of him. And obviously, there is some intrigue on Thursday night on what those guys might look like. Teron Jackson, as you said, Patrick Johnson. And one other, Davion Taylor, unfortunately, will not get a chance to get out there with the injury situation. So it's unfortunate because he would have been a nice guy to see get some extra snaps here. But I guess Jacoby Stevens would get more there, Sean Bradley. So it should be a fun night. Thursday night, the Eagles are back. You can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Andrew just broke down some of the guys he's keeping an eye on. We'll do more tomorrow with Jeff Mosher for Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, Eagles football is back Thursday night. Andrew, quick 20 minutes, man. It goes quick.
It always does, man. Have a good one.
All right, man. Andrew DeCecco, Football at 4 from the Inside the Birds podcast at InsideTheBirds.com. Here on the Sports Bash this hour, it is brought to you by PropSwap, where America buys and sells sports bets. Go to PropSwap.com, download the PropSwap app today. That Patrick Robinson stuff, man. Crazy. What a day. What a day. I am Mike Hill. This is the Sports Bash. I hope that you are following along as we take you till 6 o'clock tonight. Tom Moore is on game night tonight. He'll talk with Josh about all things Sixers, Phillies, Eagles, great sports columnists. Coming up here on the Sports Bash, do you remember things that happened on this day, August the 10th? And a Tuesday with Thompson with the PT later on tonight. We hope you'll hang around for that. Check out over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Eagles fans, where were they ranked as the biggest drinkers during football games? You might be surprised at where they landed on the list. Get it now at 97.3 ESPN.com and the free mobile app. Do you remember these are things that happened on this day? It was August the 10th when these things happened. Do you remember what you were doing August the 10th at any point of your life? Neither do I. Actually, if you go to Facebook, it'll tell you what you did on this day, right? You can go to your memories. Like on this day last year, I wasn't here. I'd rather be doing that right now.
I distinctly remember, at least in the last couple of years, that August 10th was an Eagles preseason game.
Possibly, yeah. August 10th, 2019. It looks like I was not here. August 10th, 2019. It looks like I was on a sailboat.
Wow.
Actually,
On a boat.
on this day, 2018, Pete Thompson was hired in his new job.
Whoa.
That popped up on my screen somehow.
You would be
On this
that
day,
close.
August 10th, 2014, I was also on vacation. August 10th seems to be a day that I'm not here a whole heck of a lot.
But you're
Oh,
here
by the way,
today.
on this day in 2011, my team won the regional, and we're going to the World Series.
Deja vu?
Yeah. I'm actually out of here on Thursday for that.
Close enough.
Phew. But on this day, in other instances in life and in this world, let's see what else happened. On this day, August 10th, with the Dodgers leading 2-1 in the ninth, unruly fans, it's kind of been the theme today, began throwing balls onto the field, forcing the Dodgers to forfeit the game with the Cardinals in 1995. That's, the Dodger fans don't get enough credit for being unruly.
Well, remember, it was the Dodgers and Giants fans that got in a fight, and that person was shot and had to go to the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, that was a real bad instance. But
I mean, yeah, I've never heard of a situation where Philly fans fight with somebody else and shoot somebody.
no, I haven't heard that one yet.
Exactly. So let's have a little context here, people.
Context is king. We don't always like to hear it.
By the way, I love the list at 97.3 ESPN.com, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, because the 5 teams that rank ahead of Philly fans in terms of drinking is so appropriate. Like, if you look at that list, you realize, you understand why. Like, totally.
Well, the Bengals are number 1. Baltimore's always good, though.
The Bengals are a miserable franchise. If you were a Bengals fan, you'd be drinking yourself to misery.
Yeah, but
too.
why Baltimore? Number 2. This is the list over at 97.3 ESPN.com of the 5 fan bases that drink the most.
Maybe Baltimore beer. Well, actually, no, hold on.
Now, Baltimore's got good beer.
Baltimore concessions are inexpensive compared to a lot of the teams.
Okay,
So Baltimore and Atlanta have slashed concession prices over the last few years.
smart.
So maybe
Buffalo's
that
on the list.
Well, Buffalo, they're a party atmosphere. That's all they got up there.
Yeah, but
Buffalo Mafia.
everybody thinks that that's like the Eagles, that they have great tailgates.
Come on, Bill's Mafia, they're jumping through tables. They're like
I
a
know.
WWE show.
Cincinnati Chicago Bears, and Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers seem so odd.
The Carolinas the one that made no sense to me. That was the one that confused me. Chicago makes sense. It's cold outside. You got to maybe have a little extra in you to keep warm.
But, I mean, like, for Philadelphia to be 26th on the list was a little mind-boggling.
Maybe people don't want to spend the money at the stadium.
Well, that's what somebody said, but there was also a part of it that said, that they are also 21st in pre-gaming.
It seems pretty low.
It seems very low.
But I totally understand why Buffalo and Cincinnati and those two are up.
Like in the article I wrote, I said, I think this survey site didn't go through the Jethro lot. They just kind of maybe went to the friendly lots.
Jethro
You ever go to that
lot.
Jethro lot?
I don't think it's been to a lot.
Holy
at Lincoln
mackerel.
Financial Field.
Like that lot is on another level.
Philly fans are not shy about their passion, and I think that gets gets overlooked at times because people treat the attitude of the fans and misinterpret their passion for other things.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They're irrational. Sometimes, things go here or there, but they just love being a part of it.
They
They
care,
look at the team as an extension of them.
and I'd rather deal with that kind of fan than in a fan base like Atlanta where they're just indifferent half the time.
On this day, 2002, Barry Bonds draws 3 intentional walks. That gives him 46 for the season, passes Willie McCovey all-time record. 2 seasons later, Bonds was walked 120 times in a season intentionally. I don't think Okay, you know the new rule is they don't even have to intentionally walk you. They just put the 4 fingers
Right.
up. I can't even remember seeing an intentional walk now.
I feel like it's been years at this point.
This guy was intentionally walked 120 times in a year.
And it was painful to watch because they're throwing the ball outside and Bonds would just sit there and be like, can we get this over with?
Well, one of the things they did was to try to speed the game up, was to put this new,
Right, because there's so many intentional walks.
right,
You have
like
to worry.
throwing the 4 pitches really extended the game by another
20
45
seconds.
minutes. Ridiculous. 1971, Minnesota Twins first baseman Harmon Killebrew hits his 500th homer against the Baltimore Orioles. Also, it was on this day that the Society of American Baseball Research was founded in Cooperstown, New York.
Oh,
On 1971, same thing. Killebrew 500 homer though off Mike Cuellar for the Baltimore Orioles, a 4-3 loss at the old Metropolitan Stadium.
Killebrew was a beast, man. That guy was a home run machine.
1984, Michael Jordan scores 20 points as the United States men's basketball team beats Spain 96-65 to win gold medal at the Summer Olympic Games in Los Angeles. Some things haven't changed.
And some things have at the same time.
Well, the U.S. wins gold in basketball. That hasn't changed.
That hasn't changed, but the margin of the score and the fact that the players were out drinking and playing cards all night the night before.
The night before the game?
So I read Jack McCollum's book Dream Team where he was embedded.
Oh, they're
with-
talking about this team.
No, I'm talking about the Jordan team.
Yeah. Oh, they could. Back then they could.
Well, Jordan was a special animal.
The
He played golf for
competition-
18 holes and scored 20
The
points.
competition back then, they didn't need to be 100%.
Yeah, but Jordan was this unique animal. We all know that.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I thought you were talking about this team.
No, this team was too concerned about what Kendrick Perkins said about them on TV.
Yeah.
Sensitive Susie's.
1996, Arliss premieres on HBO.
Wow, I remember that show. Yeah,
Yeah, I used to watch that show a lot.
missed that show.
Yeah, I can't believe. What year was that? 19...
Feels like it's more recent. than that.
1996. 1992, Dave Winfield, Candy Maldonado, and Joe Carter each hit 2-run homers. The Blue Jays beat the Orioles 8-4 at Skydome. So Dave Winfield, Candy Maldonado, and Joe Carter. Those are 3 great names to bring back on this day.
I don't even know who Candy Maldonado
Really?
is. No.
Oh, come on. Candy Maldonado. Now, in this game, apparently he's playing for the Blue Jays, but I remember him with the Giants. You don't remember Candy Maldonado?
I never had that baseball card.
Oh, man. Candy Maldonado was great. He played for the San Francisco Giants, so I remember him more with the Giants than I do the Blue Jays.
Okay.
2005, on this day, after getting suspended for a week, he got into a shouting match with head coach Andy Reid. Eagles wide receiver Terrell Owens held a news conference shirtless, doing sit-ups in the driveway of his New Jersey home.
Yeah.
In a career filled with bizarre acts, this was probably takes the cake.
And from what I understand, Jeff Mosher was there.
Everybody was there. A lot of people on that beat, they were sitting in his driveway. He was out there doing sit-ups.
I've heard Mosher tell the story that at the time, his editor assigned him to go there instead of going to training camp.
Well, if you remember, everybody was in his driveway.
Yeah.
And Rosenhaus, his agent, was there, and that was the whole next question.
Next question. While T.O. was doing sit-ups and push-ups.
Now, if you look back to that whole thing, Owens was completely in the wrong the way he handled it.
Oh, of course.
I mean, he wanted a new contract because he felt that the Eagles were going to cut him.
Which made no sense.
Right. He played that so poorly, and then it led to him and McNabb just not getting on the same page because he thought McNabb should have backed him.
I love that scene where, remember, he's following him around on the sideline. McNabb's trying to, get away from him.
Yeah. Yes, I do. It's a shame that those two guys only played the one season together.
If they would have played about 3-4 years together, I feel like I could guarantee you a Super Bowl championship.
No doubt. I mean, McNabb never had a receiver to throw it to. Not once in his career did he have a player. And then as soon as he got Owens, his completion percentage went up by 5%.
Oh, he had the best year of his career. He had 32 touchdowns.
It wasn't even close.
it was incredible what one player did for that offense. And as soon as they lost him, they were never the same. And then McNabb just ran out of time.
Well, that was 05, right? They had a terrible year in 05, and then they just started to that's when they started to flatline out a little bit.
Yeah, they had that one more run.
10. After the 09 season.
After the 09
They went to the NFC Championship game.
Right. They had that one more run at it, and that was the end. And then they moved on from McNabb, and then, well, the rest is history.
Yeah. Can't believe that. 2005. So today's the day. August 10th, 2005, Owens is in his driveway doing sit-ups.
Yeah.
So, man, that was that long ago. Jeez.
Wild, right?
Crazy. A lot of things happen.
I like it.
Go look up Candy Maldonado. Do yourself a favor.
I'll add that to my to-do list.
All right, these are things that happened on this day, August the 10th. By the way, on this day, 1934, Babe Ruth announced that this would be his final season as a full-time player. Made that announcement today in 1934. I feel like anytime Babe Ruth is part of something, he's got to be
mentioned,
right?
Well, I mean, the guy's a legend for multiple reasons.
The fact that his name is Babe Ruth. I've brought that up many times on this.
That in and of itself, yeah.
How many people out there remember this? On this day in 1977, the Phillies and the Expos play a doubleheader that ends at 3:23 in the morning. Remember that out there, people?
Yeah, that was an interesting night.
Well, you weren't even born yet. 1977. Josh says, yeah, that was an interesting night, as if he was sitting on a chair watching it.
Wait, you've never watched the ESPN Classic before?
Well, you're telling me the 1977 game between the Phillies and Expos doubleheader just randomly popped up on ESPN Classic, and you happened to see it and watch it to say that was an interesting night? You can say, I've never seen the game.
When you're an only child and you know how much of a life
if you are telling me you have watched that game, I am calling you out on that.
I just remember it being there. I don't watch the whole thing.
Come on. Of course not. It was a doubleheader that ended at 3:23 in the morning. I have a hard time thinking that ESPN Classic doubled up on that game and gave it to you.
Full doubleheader. They played the second part.
I'm going to have to ask somebody to fact check that for me. Billy Schwein, get on that for me.
Oh, you're going to trust Billy Schwein?
Well, I can't trust you, apparently. You just told me you watched the game that happened in 1977.
No, I said it was on ESPN Classic.
I don't believe that either. That I don't believe. I'm calling you out BS.
Listen, you can call me out.
I want the ESPN Classic Library.
But don't be going asking Billy Schwein to fact check me.
1981, Pete Rose, his 3,631 career hit. It breaks Stan Musial's NL hit record. Pete Rose, 1981. Did you see that?
I remember the highlights.
There you go. Now, if you told me you saw the highlights of that Phillies game, that I would believe.
Well, it was a lie now?
No, you already have.
To accommodate you?
You already have. That's the point.
What? I said it was on ESPN Classic.
I'm not so sure about that. I don't know how I can find that out, though. I don't know if I can find the ESPN Classic library.
Yeah, speaking of ESPN Classic, they're talking about Freddie Coleman and Freddie Fitzsimmons last night here on 97.3 ESPN. That Ian Fitzsimmons just recently found out that there's no more ESPN Classic.
Yeah, I knew that there was no more ESPN Classic, but it was just recently that I found that out.
Yeah, Ian Fitzsimmons found out this week. He said he went looking for ESPN Classic to watch old Bobby Bowden Florida State football.
Well, they have like the SEC, like those stations are essentially ESPN Classics.
Yeah, well, the problem is the ACC network is not on Xfinity. It's only on like YouTube network.
Schwein just texted me. He says, I caught the tail end of that. What would you like me to check? I mean, Billy, he doesn't have the ability to figure this out. Josh claims, Billy, that he watched the 1977 Phillies Expos doubleheader that ended at 3:23 in the morning. And I said, well, the game happened in 1977. You weren't even born yet. Well, then he dug himself deeper in the hole and said, well, I watched it on ESPN Classic. To which I say, I don't believe ESPN Classic has that game in their library to air. That would be my retort to you saying, well, I watched it on ESPN Classic.
It's a broad assumption.
I think a lot of people would probably agree with me. That game would
I think those people may not remember that there were these home run derbies from the 60s that they
that was a show, though. That I
was
remember. I wouldn't call you out on that. That is a definitive. That was a show.
Well, that was on there.
That was the precursor to the home run derby.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was a whole show, though. They did like the home run derby show.
Right. So I'm saying if that was on ESPN Classic, you're going to act like a game from 77 might not be on there?
Was it a classic?
I don't know.
What was so classic about that game? That's what I want. Now, what was the score of these games to make them classics? By the way, this day in 1987, I was at this game. Kevin Gross gets suspended for scuffing the baseball with sandpaper.
Can I get some factual evidence that you were there?
Yeah, he got checked on the mound, and he started to pull the stuff out of his pockets and everything. And he was like, wait, what? I got nothing. I was a little kid. I was 10 years old.
What year was this?
1987.
87.
Yep.
So this was when they were wearing what, baby blues?
Baby blues and maroons, yep. Which is exactly the color uniforms we wear at the World Series.
Oh, really?
Yep, we wear baby blue and maroon.
Now, did you get to pick that
No,
color,
they give
or
it
do
to
they
us.
assign it to you?
No, they give us the uniforms.
Okay. Are you okay with that color scheme?
Yeah, because one of our secondary colors is maroon, so we can kind of incorporate it.
Gotcha.
I'll leave with this. On 1987, Braves signed Greg Maddux. It was a record deal back then. 5 years, $57 million.
The fact that $57 million is a record deal, and yet Josh Allen is getting paid, what, $40 million now by the Bulls?
Now, Billy says, I don't remember that doubleheader. In 1977, I was in 10th grade. Now, I don't know what that has to do with anything, but my question was at what grade you were in.
Here's a problem with Billy. Billy can't use age, grade, or anything because he claims he remembers the Flyers winning the Cup vividly.
Yeah.
And that was before 77. So if we are going to go based on the Billy Schwein pantheon of descriptors of sports history, if we are to believe Billy remembers every game from 74 and 75. And he was younger in those years.
By the way, the second game of the doubleheader, Philly beat Montreal 6-1. The game started at 11:50.
I love that. Just because how random of a time that is.
Yeah.
I know you hate that. You want it to be like 11:30, 12 o'clock.
Well, it started at that time because the first game ended at a certain time. And let's see.
Just saying they could have rounded up for you.
No, they would not list the round. Like this game here, the game. This is the first game of the doubleheader. The Phillies also won the first game of the doubleheader 6-1.
They won both games
6-1.
Well, that's memorable.
Now, you would think that would be memorable if you saw it on ESPN. You would say, oh, yeah, you're right. I remember they were both 6-1. How odd is that?
Can't remember everything. I don't know who Candy Maldonado is.
I'm surprised by that.
Told you, didn't have a baseball card. Can't remember him.
Oh, man.
That's how I learned half the players when I was a kid. I had so many random baseball cards. I didn't know. I was like, I gotta look up these guys in the baseball almanac.
So there you go. That's what happened today. August the 10th. Back with more. All right, Sports Bash Live. So I did a little bit more digging on this Phillies Expos game. So what made the game even more interesting, and even more the reason why I can't see it appearing on ESPN Classic, is because this game ended at 3:23 in the morning. Why? Well, because there was 4 hours and 56 minutes worth of rain delays in that particular game. The first game, Expos played the Phillies at Veterans Stadium, had 2 delays. One was 1 hour and 3 minutes, and the second one was 2 hours and 27 minutes. The second game of the doubleheader had a rain delay that lasted 1 hour and 26 minutes in the second inning. How about this? They had 2 delays. They had a 1 hour delay in the first inning. They came back and played the second inning, and then a 2 hour and 27 minute delay in the third inning. They then finished that game, started the second game, and then the second game had an hour and 26 minute rain delay that started in the second inning of the game. So all in total, they had 4 hours and 56 minutes of rain delays. Do you think they would even sit around for 4 hours and 56 minutes for a rain delay anymore? Would they just cancel the game and come? They played a doubleheader and had 4 hours and 56 minutes. That's how the game ended at 3:23 in the morning. Now, that being said, I'm seemingly having a hard time thinking that ESPN Classic is going to air 4 hours and 56 minutes of a rain delay. But I might be wrong. Now, I have no way of being able to find this out. So I'm going to have to take you at your word that you watched both games of this doubleheader on ESPN Classic and you remember them.
This is why partially I remember it, because ESPN has that editing thing where if you ever watch a game in the middle of the night they replay, they have the thing where they edit part of the game.
I'm well aware of that.
So they patch the thing together. It's not even the real length of the game. So you didn't get the full 5 hour effect. It was just, you have the little thing on the bottom that tells you game ended at 3 o'clock in the morning. And, they had the thing where all right, we're jumping now to the 5th inning.
I've seen that. I definitely have seen that. Yes. I have seen that.
It's one of those things where you fall asleep with the TV in the middle of the night and you wake up and you're like, why is this game? Didn't I just, that's right. This is their replay in the middle of the night that's edited.
Well, that game had 5 hours almost worth of rain delays.
Yeah, ESPN Classic, they air all the rain delay parts. They'll just patch the pieces together. Now, I got to say, though, MLB Network is not as good as ESPN Classic at patching games together for their replays. They just skip whole chunks of games sometimes, which is disappointing.
Yeah, well, see, if you had a rain delay in the game, it depends on where the game left. Was it between innings? Was it in the middle of an inning?
The middle of an inning. What inning was it in?
Because that game had 3 rain delays. Yeah, one happened in the first inning, one in the third. The second game had one in the second. The Phillies won both games 6-1. The game ended at 3:23 in the morning. That was what was memorable about that game.
And they both had the same score.
And apparently it was on ESPN Classic, which I still don't believe.
I was just saying I'm disappointed last year when I watched MLB Network and NBA TV during the pandemic and everything was shut down for the old classic games. I was a little disappointed with the presentations, got to be honest.
Well, the ESPN Classic went away.
Would you say 2008?
Not entirely sure. It says that there was in 2007 that it was reported that ESPN Classic would no longer develop or air original programming, and it would not be clear when it was going to be going away. I don't know when it actually went away. So, I guess 2008 is part of a cost-cutting move. ESPN Classic schedule began largely composed of ESPN original programming. See, I don't know. I guess they decided when the video on demand service kind of started to become bigger is when ESPN Classic kind of got pushed out.
Got phased out. Because for a while there was a point in time where because NFL Network came along, they had less NFL games. So they would air, what was that documentary, the 50 Greatest Players, that documentary? and they would air that like on a loop for like hours.
Well, you
on
got a
end.
5-hour baseball game. You could have put the 1977 game between the Phillies and Expos on repeat.
Yeah, it probably would have been better than seeing fill in the blank athlete for the 20th time. It's like when NFL Network airs, like, we're doing a marathon of a football life. And you look through the schedule and you're like, I've already seen half of these 10 times.
Yeah. This gentleman texts in. He says, Mike, Josh is full of bleep. A 6-1 game on ESPN Classic. Did anything good happen for it to make ESPN Classic? Well, apparently it's the fact that it was both games of the doubleheader were 6-1, had 5 hours worth of rain delays, and it ended at 3:23 in the morning. Would that be classified as a classic?
This gentleman's never watched the ESPN Classic.
Yeah, Gil, they're going to show actual footage of the rain delay on ESPN Classic. That's almost as bad as when you thought it would only take 10 hours to walk from Washington State to Alaska. First off, that's my point, is that I know they're not going to air footage of the rain delay. That's why they wouldn't put that game on ESPN Classic. You jackass. That's the whole point. They're not going to show footage of a rain delay, and they had 3 rain delays in that game. All right, final hour of the show. Looking forward to this. The PT's here. We both got our Philly shirts on. Look at that. Julius, we are like brothers.
First place Phillies. FPF. First place Phillies.
Hey there, Peter.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good.
FPPH, really, but you know.
First place Phillies. Phillies Dodgers tonight. Looking forward to it. Now, is that that hat looks very familiar.
Yes.
Nope, not my hat. Never mind.
You know, this is exactly the one you got for me. This side has the Temple logo on it. There you go. Can you see it?
No, you're on the wrong side.
How about that way? Now can you see it?
Yep, I do. I see it. Temple.
Yeah, there's a Temple T. Temple Tough, baby.
Temple Tough, Bubby. So I got to get your opinion on this, okay?
Sure.
So we did our feature that we'd like to do with the 4 o'clock hour on this day. We look back at things that happened on this date.
Oh, good. All right, let's hear it.
On this day, 1977, Phillies played the Expos in a doubleheader that ended at 3:23 in the morning.
This is the 3:23. What year was this?
1977.
Oh, no.
Phillies Expos. It's not the Mitch Williams 4.
Oh, right. I got a little confused there for a minute. Thank you.
So there's a couple of interesting things in this game. One, there was 4 hours and 56 minutes worth of rain delays. There was one rain delay that happened in the first inning of the first game for an hour and 3 minutes. And then they came back, and there was a 2 hour and 27 rain delay in the third inning. They then finished that game, which completed at 6-1 Phillies. The second game begins, and they have an hour and 26-minute rain delay in the second inning.
Oof.
Phillies come back, and they come back, both teams. The Phillies win that game 6-1. The game ends at 3:23 in the morning, to which Josh says, "Oh, that was a long night." I said, "What, did you see that game? It happened in 1977. He says he watched it on ESPN Classic. Are you calling BS on that, or are you with Josh that he had watched the game on ESPN Classic? 1, 2, that ESPN Classic would actually pick that game, considering it had 5 hours worth of rain delays, to which he says
they would edit it out. Yeah,
delays out.
Yeah, they could do that. But I just don't see that as being such a classic, epic game. You know, I mean, other than the only notoriety is the fact that it was rain delayed 3 times, right? I mean, 77 is Schmidt's home run in there? No, that was like 79, wasn't it? Or 80? Wasn't that the 80 season when Schmidt hit the home run for them? That was in Montreal to basically vault them to the pennant.
Yeah, this game's at Veterans Stadium, 1977.
That total BS. No way is that on ESPN Classic.
Yeah,
first of all, ESPN can't get the rights to it. I mean, it's not even in a vault somewhere on like a film.
That's another good point. Would ESPN have the rights to this game? It was probably on Prism.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, was Prism around in 77?
I don't know.
What year did Prism launch is another
question. I don't know. But you want the lineup here, buddy?
Yeah, I like to hear these old names. I heard Shake and Bake already. You said Shake and Bake.
Jake McBride, leadoff, plays right field. Larry Boa is your shortstop, hitting second. Mike Schmidt hits third and plays third base. Greg Lazinski bats fourth, playing left field. Richie Hebner hits fifth, playing first base. Gary Maddox hits sixth and plays center field. Bob Boone, your catcher, he hits seventh. Ted Sizemore bats eighth and plays second base. And batting ninth and doing the pitching is Jim Lornborg.
Lornborg, yes. By the way, while you were reading me the lineup, Prism launched in 1976, so Prism was around. But unless, like, somebody said, hey, here's a bunch of videotape that we want to just grab, nobody ever does that. That's why classic shows are gone or are never found. You either reuse the tape or you just pitched it, you know?
Yeah, that was game 2. Now, game 1, your lineup was Bake McBride, Larry Boa, Mike Schmidt, Greg Lazinski, Richie Hebner, Gary Maddox, Tim McCarver behind the plate did the catching.
Timmy
Ted Sizemore played second, and Larry Christensen was on the mound. He did the pitching.
LC doesn't seem to age, but yeah, so obviously more marquee names in game 2 than game 1. You're not going to make your veterans go.
Well, no, the Phillies went with the same lineup except for the catcher. It was the same exact lineup except the catcher. Now, Montreal went with Dave Katch, Warren Cromartie, Ellis Valentine, Tony Perez, Andre Dawson, Gary Carter, Wade Garrett,
Gary Carter,
Chris Fire, Steve Rogers was your pitcher for Le Montreal Expos.
Oh, that's funny.
Josh, you remember any of these names from watching?
I remember a few. By the way, no, sorry, Josh. No way, man. No way did he see that. That's total BS.
And I gave him the option to back out.
Back out?
And
now
now
you're really digging in. Like this is
now
like
he's
hour
talking
3 of you. When did it come up in the show?
It happened at 4:35. It happened.
And like a dog with a bone, you're just killing him on it.
Listen, I remember half those players anyway. The point of the matter is that neither one of you want to believe that ESPN Classic is some of the most useless games in world history on their network because they were on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the 90s.
If you're going to double down on this, I know people that work at ESPN, Josh. I can find out if they actually have this in their archives or database.
Listen, Pete, go ahead and ask him. And you know what? If I'm wrong and I remember wrong, I'm wrong. I don't mind saying I'm wrong. I just explained why I was wrong yesterday with a bet I had on the air. I'm not like certain people in this world that we all know who just won't admit when they're wrong.
Oh, this is my favorite Tuesday with Thompson in a long time.
I said PT is going to have a field day with this one. 1977, Montreal Phillies veterans. Oh, I watched that game. It was on ESPN Classic. And then I go on to get more details. And I'm like, are you sure you want to say you saw this game? First off, it happened in 1977. Well, then he was like, well, yeah, I saw it on ESPN Classic. So it wasn't like at first, it was almost as if he saw the game live. I said, well, the game happened in 1977.
What year were you born, Josh?
Not 77.
Okay, good.
Well, I was born in 77.
Not tell the year. That was good.
I was born in 77, so he wasn't around for another 10 years.
I was 6. I mean, I was a young lad. Yeah.
8 years. All right. So 1977, he says, oh, that was a heck of a night that night. I said, did you see the game? It happened in 1977. Watched it on ESPN Classic, he said.
Oh, poor Josh. You know I love any segment, Josh, where anybody else is getting beat up other than me.
Exactly. That's the only reason why PT is having a good time.
I'm having the best.
Attack.
This is outstanding.
Hey, look, behind PT, there's Veterans Stadium where that game was played in 1977.
Yes, for those of you watching on the stream, yes, there's the Vet, there's the Spectrum, there's what else is in there?
Which reminds me now. So there's this poll that is out about Eagles fans.
I retweeted it.
Yeah, are some of the lamest tailgaters. Are you buying it, PT?
I thought I read your article with great fervor and interest. I thought the part, and you were very accurate in saying whoever did the poll or the unscientific survey of who drinks the most, who drinks the least, who's the drunkest, who's the booziest, whoever did that clearly has never been to the Jetro lot for lot M, lot N, and the points where, I mean, do they not remember the Philadelphia Eagles fan that pulled the move out of Blazing Saddles and punched the horse? Do they not remember that? Do they not? That happened. That happened before the Vikings playoff game in the Super Bowl year. Come on.
Yeah, I feel like they're off base on this poll. I think the 2,000 people they found might have been the people that they whisked in through the VIP entrance.
No doubt. I mean, come on. Listen, you guys both know that I went to school at Temple, North Philadelphia, right? It's urban. But you got to be Temple tough to go to Temple, right? I'm usually not worried for my safety, but I am not going to walk through the M or the N lot. I just, as a policy, that's not something I'm going to do because that's kind of, to me, where look, I don't know when I got into the get off my lawn generation, but I'm 50 and I kind of look at it like, no, thank you. I don't need to go through drunken booze fest, but they're there.
Todd in Brigantine wants to know, was the game on ESPN Classic because of how late it was being played into the morning? That's the only reason I could see that game on ESPN Classic. I have news for you, Todd. That game didn't air on ESPN Classic. I'm just going to let Josh play along for this as long as I can, but it had no business being on ESPN Classic.
Right. No way. Listen, the only way it could be on ESPN, you're right, Gil. If it aired anywhere, it was either on PHL 17 or Prism. And Prism started in 76, so Prism did exist. So the odds are, but even a fledgling network probably that's something you gotta, like, Chris Wheeler would know the answer to that. I'm trying to think of who else.
Chris Wheeler the other day.
Going sans hair.
Well, we saw that a year ago.
I know, but he's definitely not afraid of it now. And I loved when on Friday night when they had the David Montgomery thing. I think Jimmy Rollins then joined him in the booth, and Jimmy Rollins said something about Wheels is back, or somebody, or T-Mac said Wheels is back, and Crux said to Jimmy, "Hey, have you seen Wheels?" And Rollins is like, "Oh yeah," and he goes, "No, have you seen him?" Like giving him the look, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like he's a little different than you used to be.
Oh yes,
gives us such glee. I don't know why. You saw my Facebook post, Gil, about my Goody brush, right? That I thought I needed to put that up. I've retired the Goody brush out of the PT toiletry kit.
Yeah, what was the reason?
Because I have no freaking hair to brush.
Really? Like you're just at a point where
look, I'll take my hat off. I don't care. Here, hang on.
I mean, if
I bend my head down.
Back there. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got it on the sides. I got it here in the middle. But like a brush, there's no point. Why have it?
There's no point. Okay, I just
R.I.P. my brush.
You can keep it for nostalgia purposes.
Well, it's crazy the people that read stuff you put up, because I got a private message, not back on Facebook, but a private message from Wayne Fish, the Flyers beat writer, holding two of the Goody brushes. Right? Didn't your dad either text me or post back on it? And he had his.
No, my dad
brush.
chimed in and said that he also has the Goody brush.
Yeah, man, it was the industry standard. Now
I couldn't find mine. I still could use one, but I don't know. I had that same exact one that you had.
Well, if you have that blue juice that the barber has, I could give you mine, and you could kill all the cooties off it, and then you could have basically a brand new brush.
Now, this gentleman texted me, he says, Josh is right. That game was on ESPN Classic. I've also seen it played on NBC Sports Philly during a rain delay. Now, I think this is Josh's buddy.
Oh,
tell me the number, and I'll look up the number.
NBC Sports. Now, why would NBC Sports Philly got all the Prism stuff? I'm sure, so I could see that being plausible. The ESPN Classic part is the part where I'm throwing a flag on the play.
Yeah, I would not argue with the fact that it may have been on during a rain delay, although that I'm on. You're not going to put 5. That game had 4 hours and 56 minutes of rain delay.
Like if they did their homework, Gil, this is more plausible. The date was today, right? Like if they did their homework, maybe a year ago at this time or 5 years ago at this time, they said, "Hey, on this day, la da da," and then just use it as a little 2-minute insert story that they do during the game. You know what I mean? Like I could also see that, but no way could I see him playing. Yeah,
this gentleman says NBC Sports sometimes plays old Philadelphia games. Maybe that was where it was played. I don't think Josh is right. I'm just trying to help him, but he's wrong.
Oh, Josh.
Some people trying to help
Josh, the listeners trying to help you.
I would like if I could find that the game was on Classic, I have no problem saying I am surprised by the fact that you were accurate on this, but I'm having a hard time with it.
Well, if they haven't all been fired, I'll try to reach out to some people I know at ESPN. And
ESPN Classic has been shut down for some time, I guess.
Yeah, but there's got to be somebody up there in Bristol that can answer this question.
In defense of Josh on this one,
I'm all ears now. Hang on.
I will say that a lot of people that work at ESPN come from this region. So there's a possibility that they would pick out more games heavily influenced in this market. Now, that being said, they are typically younger people that I don't know that they would know that the 1977 August 10th double disco between the Expos and the Phillies ended at 3:23 in the morning and therefore qualified for a classic game at 6-1 in game 1 and 6-1 in game number 2.
Yeah.
I can confirm the person who said that one text is not in my phone. So therefore, I do not know this person.
Gil, you buying that?
Likely story.
Here, you look at my phone. Here you go. You want it?
No, I will take your word on that one. I believe
Right.
that one more than I do
See?
that you saw that game in 1977.
I'm not going to show it on the video stream because I don't want to get the person in trouble.
Yeah.
But as you can see, like, look over here. That number is not in the phone.
It is not in the phone.
All
Unregistered.
right. Verified. Okay.
But speaking of unruly fans, did you see the unruly fan get tackled by the ball girl the other day?
I did see that, and I thought that was also, because the first thing I saw were the Mets fans fighting. What was that, Saturday night, right?
Yeah.
When the reliever came in and gave up back-to-back home runs. The first, you actually couldn't really tell, but that I had watched that broadcast down in Avalon with my family, and I saw all the Mets fans basically up near Harry the K's in that upper deck section of Harry the K's, right? And they had taken over a whole section. And so obviously there was one Philly fan in there because he or she decided to record them fighting. And at first I was going to retweet that original, the one you embedded in your article, Gil. I was going to retweet it, but then I thought, like, it's got curse words in it and stuff like that. They're yelling F this and F that. Like, so I said, all right, well, I'll just talk about it. So I sent it out because, so many people give the Philly fans a hard time. And here were the Mets fans being dum-dums. They were busy fighting with each other, and they missed the home run. Like, you literally see them fighting, and then you hear, like, because the ball's going out.
Did you see also the hero of the NFC Championship game retired today?
That would be Patrick Robinson. Is that
correct? That
yes,
is correct.
I did read it.
Thompson said Patrick Robinson is the Eagles' version of Matt Stairs, a nondescript player who now goes on the mantle of one of the greatest moments in the history of that team, even though they only played there for a very short amount of time.
Now, I love your description. However, I do not agree with it because was it a significant play? Yes. But what I'm trying to say is I do not agree with the fact that anybody would know who the hell Patrick Robinson was if he was standing next to you at the bar. That's the difference.
That's the nature of
helmets and uniforms and stuff. Yeah, but like Matt Stairs is held in reverence because, first of all, the guy looks like a beer drinker, and secondly, everybody wants to drink a beer with a guy. I don't think if Patrick Robinson walked into the club, I don't think people are sending over bottles of Dom Perignon or cognac or whatever. Like, I don't think that's happening.
By the way, Patrick Robinson did retire today. He is
From
the guy
the
who
Saints. He really left the Saints in a lurch,
Yeah, well, you're right about that. He retired, and the Saints are really struggling in the secondary because he was supposed to start for them. But he retired. He has that interception. He took Case Keenum's pass 50 yards to pay dirt in the
I was there, man. Happened right in front of me. That was
all right. Now I've heard it's
game,
the loudest moment in the history of Lincoln Financial Field.
I thought so. I mean, we were going bananas. There was a guy in a dog mask, like right behind me, that was hugging me, and my niece was high-fiving me, and I was trying to make sure my dad didn't fall over. And there's some certain memories that I remember from that. There's certain memories I remember from that. Some of the memories that I remember too are that the 50-50 was the largest I've ever seen at any sporting event I've ever attended. The half that you were going to get was something like $265,000 or something like that. It was outrageous.
Now, Jeffrey's watching on YouTube, and he says all three of you are follically challenged. Join the crowd. Now, I am not follically challenged.
Jeffrey's extremely incorrect. Mike Gill has more hair on his head than half this building combined.
Yeah, I have a lot.
Yeah, you got a full head of hair there. I mean, there's maybe a little
also a full head of
but
hair he keeps tight.
It's
It's not like he has to shape it to like cover up for something.
Yeah, I got two. I'm actually getting my hair cut tonight, I think, before I leave because I got too much.
You want to look good in Jamestown? You figure that the town of Jamestown needs to see the best MG out there?
Well, it's always good luck. You get the haircut before the tournament begins. I don't want to have the shaggy hair and then not be able to cut it because, I can't cut my hair because we keep winning.
Oh, that's true. Then you'll be right. I mean, some guy grew a mustache because of that during a Super Bowl season, but I digress.
Yeah. So what'd you think of Carter Hart deal?
Well, they're really kind of risking the dice, but they had no choice, right? I mean, you could get the bad Carter Hart or you could get the bounce back one. And I mean, what were their options out there? They're not going to go – you're not going to give up on a guy after one bad season. That's number one. Number two, I thought that the guy's only 23 years old. He's going to be 23 on Friday, I think. He's 22, going to be 23. And I look at it like – they've improved the defense in front of them. So now this is sort of put up or shut up because when you replace half the defensive guys in front of them, if the defense isn't improved, then he's not going to improve. And hopefully he's in a better place. I mean, you're never able to pin down like what went wrong. I mean, his angles were poor. I think, look, sports is a mental game, and I think mentally he was messed up too. I don't think they said he fired didn't he get rid of his sports psychologist or something like that?
Got rid of. Yeah. Urso was on with us yesterday and said he works with Kim Dal. What's the guy's name?
Yeah, Kim Dilbaugh, and then the other guy. There's two goalie coaches that he works with, and somebody did specifically ask too, about that. And I know that Hart kind of said look, I'm going to keep those conversations, between us. But he seemed to project optimism, and he felt like he's going to be in a better place. So okay, if that's the case, Dustin is the other guy that he's been working with. Dustin Schwartz and Kim Dilbaugh are the two.
Now, this Jeffrey says on television that my hair looks like I'm follically challenged. Now, Jeff wants to know what follically challenged means. Hair follicles, like you don't have hair follicles. You're balding.
Right. Follically challenged means
I will say,
why don't you bend your hair down like you're praying, and then everybody can see, there you go, Dominus Vobiscum. Very good. Yes, that's a full, thick head of hair. Now, just for ha-has and giggles, Josh and I will both also do our bow right here, right?
Well,
and as I bow, you can see
your headset's covering
your
spot.
headset's covering your balls.
Oh,
there you go. How's that look? How do you like that?
Please,
Franciscan monk chunk.
Yeah. Now, Josh, he is in denial over there, I think.
That's a river in Egypt.
But when he goes down, it's not bad.
No, he actually, that's the thing. Josh, when he looks better. Josh, you should just do it like that all the time. You look better with your head bowed.
The hair looks better from the top than the front.
Just stare at your feet all the time, Josh. You'll be great.
The front part is diminishing.
Well, here's the thing, though.
It's gone away with that 1977 game on ESPN Classic.
My hair has been follically challenged my entire life, though. This is nothing new. I didn't start losing.
No one's claiming that it is, but that gentleman maybe never
I have
seen
been
you.
follically challenged my entire life. Yeah. This is something I've dealt with it forever. I have this thin, crazy Italian hair that has a mind of its own that wants to go in 12 different directions, and I just have to keep it short to keep it under control.
On the text board, I believe Josh watched that game as about as much as you would trust him with my lunch in your community fridge. That's pretty funny.
That's funny. Little flashback to the past. I like that. Okay. Keep them coming.
Depends what the lunch is, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we already established that Josh will go into the fridge, and if there's something that's been hanging out in that fridge for an elongated period of time, that he might claim it as his own.
There's a certain Josh clock of when it's like, okay, that's going to be mine.
Well, it's the idea of if someone hasn't eaten something, and it's, like, for example, if you have a bottle of soda, let's say, like a bottle of ginger ale, right?
Yeah.
And let's say it's been there for 2 months.
Oh, gosh.
At that point, aren't you just going to be like, hey, man, no one's opened this bottle. Free game.
I suppose. I don't know. I mean, ginger ale's not necessarily my beverage.
Okay,
but,
whatever your beverage is, Pete. Okay, whatever your thing is. Maybe you just one night have a hankering for something, and you notice that something's been in the fridge for about a month and a half, and you're like, you know what? No one's come and gotten this.
Maybe a sandwich. I like the sandwich.
Well, right now, currently in the fridge, we had a party, like a lunch in the
conference room,
like a week or two ago, and there was like pesto pasta. Yes. Like the pasta had like the pesto sauce on it. It was pretty good, but there's a lot of it left, and it is still in there.
Yeah.
Josh, now let me ask a fair question here. Did you know that was already in there? Do you monitor the fridge on a regular basis? And do you have targeted certain items like, yep, that's been there a day. Yep, that's been there a week. Hey, that's going on too. I got my eye on that one.
So what I typically do, Pete, if you want the full detail, I guess you weren't here for I think Broads was here for this conversation. But basically the idea is that I notice when things have been in the fridge for a while because I go in the fridge every day.
Yeah, he probably has a spreadsheet.
So like for example, Mike has his bag with his food in it, his lunch every day.
All right.
I know that's Mike's
got all
bag.
the keto stuff in it.
Right.
Sure,
so I know that I'm like, okay, that's Mike's bag.
Right.
There's
Plus, not
another-
even worth investigating because it's got all the stuff you don't want. So yeah,
Well,
move on to the
I
next.
can't really do keto anyway for health reasons. My own
All
health.
right.
But so then there's another lady in this building who has a very nice, flowery looking lunch box kind of looking thing.
All right.
I know that's her stuff in there.
Fine.
And then I know there's another lady in here who she always has like some sort of juice in there, and I'm always intrigued to see what juice she leaves in there, what name.
So you actually go into the secondary bag, or it's just her juice?
No, I don't look in the bags. I'm just aware of what's in the fridge. I don't look at anybody's bag. It's like going in a woman's purse. Like that's bad karma.
All right, let me ask you this:
checking.
there are a lot of condiments in there. Are they fair game? Like somebody,
I
I
really
particularly
can't do condiments.
Yeah, I would, but to me, I'd answer that yes, 100%.
I
Like if
bring,
somebody
like,
has
my
extra
own mustard.
mustards or something, fine.
I have my own mustard and mayonnaise in the fridge. All right.
I don't do mayonnaise.
All right. I'm normal people. I'm talking about here. Normal people. So I have my own mustard and my own mayo. If you
Are
were
they-
here, Peter,
Are they
if you were making
packets
your
or
own-
packets are in
No,
a
they're
jar?
like the bottles of
Okay.
mustard.
So
If you
If-
saw the mustard in there and we're making a sandwich in the kitchen, would you say, "I need mustard"? Well, there's a bottle
absolutely,
right there.
absolutely. Who's gonna miss a little squirt? One little shot. Who's gonna
Well, if
know?
somebody, now you guys don't drink. Josh does, but you don't drink coffee.
No.
So is it fair game to I hate the powdered creamer for my coffee.
Oh, right.
I always try to find if there's actual liquid creamer in there.
Yeah,
But if
that's
somebody
gold. A lot of people guard that. Yeah.
Right. Is it okay to use the creamer that somebody else
Haven't you seen the stories online where somebody kept stealing somebody's creamer at work, so then they replaced it with the breast milk they pumped and put that in there to pay them back? Like, here you go, buddy. Enjoy.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, I've
No.
seen that. I've seen that.
Is that
Creamer-
fair? Is that fair?
Creamer revenge.
Is it fair game to drink someone else's creamer?
Well, like a shot, maybe. But the thing is if
Well, that's
you
all
make
the
that,
creamer is a
if you-
shot.
yeah,
You're
but
not
if you-
more than that.
but if you make it a regular habit and drinking coffee and all that's part of a routine, pretty soon you're killing the whole creamer and you
Yes.
owe that person $5.
Yeah. See, when we have these lunch days in the office, which seemingly aren't happening as much as they used to. However, when we did have one recently, they bring in the box of coffee, and that has the bag of creamers.
Right.
So right now there's actually a bag of creamers.
Surplus, right?
Right. So that's why I've been I just had the coffee and had
Can I just ask, was the lunch called a chat and chew? Because there's no two words that drive me more
Chat and
crazy
chew.
than
Now, it was
chat
a
and
town
chew.
hall.
Oh, town hall. Okay. All right. That's
Yep,
the new
a
name
town-
for the lunches.
Well, this one particularly was a town hall meeting.
For town square. Okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
we had
All right.
all the stations had some overhead projector
Yeah.
slideshow.
Did you give a little report? Were you the
No, I just was told how much we stunk and we weren't. No, I'm just kidding. But generally, sitting through a slideshow, and they had a nice little lunch. Jen does a great job of getting the lunches. No
I
one's
agree with that 100%. Yeah.
just saying the regularity has slowed down a bit.
Diminished. Right. Well, Josh,
It
go
was
load
good
up
to
on
see
that.
you on
creamer.
Saturday, Peter.
It was great to see you. Good
There
luck
was
to
a
your book.
lot of faces. I didn't get a chance to talk to you as much as I would have liked to, but I do appreciate that you and the Schweimer did show up.
Yeah.
Josh
mean-
did not show up. He was watching a game on Classic.
Is that what it was?
1977. Phillies Dodger game, Expo game apparently was on Saturday.
I was here actually. It was
Yeah.
fun.
Well, we were there till late. We watched the Phillies game. I didn't leave till after the Phillies game got over because, as I opened my show with yesterday, people around here are
into
now
it.
watching games, clapping, high-fiving, fist bumping. Probably not COVID smart, but we're doing it.
I had the game on in the studio. For what
It's not the
worth.
same.
By the way, Pete. Now, since Gil was so busy being
Gil,
the host and the everything of that
I
event,
sat down and ate with them.
that's true.
So, Pete, was there somebody that you were happy or surprised to see on Saturday?
Oh, there was a lot of faces.
It's an excellent question. I was going to say that when an event runs the gamut from Bob Willman, the umpire, to Joe Potke, my principal and boss, you've got a broad spectrum of people at the event.
What was his relation to the event?
He is a Holy Spirit alum. He is a former AC High assistant principal, and he is tied into your guy, Brian, Brian and his wife and Joe and his wife are, they run together. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that worked out just fine.
There to support. He didn't know somebody.
Well, he knew Brian, and Brian knows you. So there you go.
But I'm saying he was there to support that.
Yes.
I didn't know the guy, but it was that's what I'm saying. That's a good reason to be there. He didn't know anybody. He was just there to support.
It's goodwill gesture.
Yeah.
And if I could just remind everyone that there was a Colin Thompson there, but not the football player, the baseball player. So at some point, Gil, we got to make it work. That and I called him over that Colin Thompson and said, "Do you know who I am?" And he said, "No." I said, "Well, my name is Pete Thompson, and you better represent the Thompson name well in Jamestown, New York."
So my girlfriend's son, I would say, "Hey, guess who will be at the fundraiser on Saturday?" Pete Thompson. He'll say, "Is he a football player?"
No, but I'm just big. That's fine.
I was given a report though that the cheapest donation came from Billy Schwein.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding. I know he's listening, and he texted me and said, "Boy, you guys are really giving it to Josh today. Better him than me." I said,
"See, Billy's also relieved." Yeah.
Billy.
I know what his donation is now that I think about it, and he ate the heck out of the food too, because he'd gone to the lifeguard racing the year before or the night before.
Oh, don't get me started on.
Yeah, he probably came in Saturday like a mess, Josh. He, still. Breathing out the fumes of the night before.
Do you want me to tell that story real quick?
I don't know. Gil's the host.
I just want to read this text real fast from Brian in EHT. He says, as long as there's no bag searching, anything in there for a month in the office is fair game. But if Josh knows who owns it, he should ask that person.
Absolutely. I agree with that. You never take something if you know who it belongs to already, because that's like offensive.
That's on point. Oh, and Gil, I think I saw about 15 Ryans, there too. So I mean,
because my cousin just texted me. He said, "Boy, you're really giving me the business with no shout out." I said, "We haven't even mentioned that part yet."
Right.
My whole family from that side came.
It was great.
All of them, and I know when you guys get together, that's always a good. But I didn't get a chance to really. I wish I didn't. I was in a whirlwind that day.
I mean, son, it's tough being the host. It's like being the groom at a wedding. You got to sort of visit with all the different people. You got to make sure everything's running smoothly. It's your event. Look, I got to meet father and son. We're both there, JR and JR. And the other thing too was I'm getting my food, and there's a pretty girl in line getting her food, and so somebody comes over and sits down and says "Oh, that's Andrew's girlfriend." And then I thought, "Oh, okay." And he says, "Oh, well, you're friends with her on Facebook." And I said, "I am." And I was wondering why the girl was so nice to me. "Hi, how are you?" So then I said, "What's the name?" And he says, "Rachel." So I go, "Grant? No." Bloom? No. I threw out 3 Rachels, and then I had to do the Facebook detective thing where I'm like, "Is this it? Is this it? Is this it?" Yeah, that's the PT.
Yeah, it was a very well attended event. I want to thank you again for coming and everybody who did show up. There were listeners that apparently that came, donated, hung out, blah blah blah, did the whole thing. It was just a whirlwind of a day. Oh, by the way, did you see the part? Now, our buddy Doug over at BFA Productions, the whole thing live. So he had me on, and then he had my mother with me and Heidi, and then my father came on to the live. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see any of that. Now, that's worth going back to check out. Yeah, I did see all those people there, the lovely Heidi and her boys, and I saw your father and Debbie. I did not see your mother, but did she come afterwards?
My mother was there. She was really mixing it up for a little while.
All right.
My brother-in-law was there as well.
Now so there's your demarcation line. I was walking out to my car and said hello to Rob as he was walking in. And if I'm not mistaken, because PT remembers these things, he had an excellent Kansas City Royals baby blue shirt on.
He did, which is the same color the Expos or the Phillies would have been wearing the night of the 1977 doubleheader on ESPN.
Oh, Josh, you're not going to live this one down, buddy.
We just brought this thing full circle, right?
Full circle.
Started this thing.
All right, I'll be calling ESPN, Gil, while you're on your trip there, and calling the research department there and find out if this is true or BS.
Yeah, PT, it's your homework. Happy hour with PT on
yesterday,
Friday.
I gave the listeners a bet to win, and I was correct. The Sixers were going to beat the Mavericks
You were
handily. Yeah. And I bet that game yesterday, and I won. I would be willing to bet the same amount of confidence that game was not on ESPN Classic.
I was curious if you were going to actually put real money up.
Yeah. I look, Josh is the best. No one works harder. No one means more to what we do here than Josh. But when he's wrong, I have to let him know. I can't just agree with him to agree. And in this instance, I feel bad in doing so. But I must
No, you don't.
agree.
No, you don't.
Josh, I just have to say, if I was hosting the show, I would have let it pass, And if Billy was hosting the show, he would have let it pass.
That's why when I'm hosting Pete Thompson, the ratings are number one. And when you're hosting, they're not so good.
There's ratings.
That's why PT's working future now, right?
People say, I hate you. You suck. You're horrible. And my answer would be, you texted me. I don't know you. And my ratings are number one. Why? Because I am controlling the conversation.
Didn't you see on Twitter some guy said, I'm not even going to read the article or something when I retweeted your Booze Fest article or your drunk thing? And I said, would you just read the article so I can get my penny? Implying like I get paid for every click, which I don't, but I just thought I'd zing that back at him.
Yeah, I like the guy who answered the booze one today. Well, the beers are too expensive. I hang out and get blasted in the lot. And I said, well, according to the article, if you would have read it, they didn't rate very well in that category either.
That is correct. But they didn't go to the Jetra lot. You got to go to the Jetra lot.
Well, I think we spent about 17 minutes longer than I anticipated.
But I enjoyed every moment of it, as I always
do, Peter. And we'll have to try to do this again sometime. Get together soon. I won't be here for a while coming up, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope it's a long trip. I wrote about your boys in Shore Local. That'll be out on newsstands, and by newsstands I mean Wawa, CVS, Dunkin' Donuts on Thursday. The new article comes out on Thursday. So.
You could have got some quotes. I know some people.
Yeah, I mean, a picture, it's a column. You don't really throw a lot of quotes in a column, right? It's something that you think I lack, an opinion.
All right, Peter.
All right, Michael. See you, Josh. This was fun.
Yep, we'll do it again.
Bye.
All right, that's Pete Thompson. That was a Tuesday with Thompson like no other, I think. I don't know that we actually accomplished much. We still can't find out whether that game was on ESPN Classic. We do know that I have more hair than both Pete and Josh probably combined. What else did we learn? Well, Josh eats other people's food out of the fridge. He does ask them if he knows it's theirs, and he finds it in the bag.
I don't go in the bag.
What is your quirk? No. What is your quirk at your job?
Of all the things, that is definitely not the quirkiest thing I do. You know that very well.
No, that is not. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Thank you for making us the number one show. I appreciate you guys. I do. What a day this has been. I'm trying to now mathematically calculate how I'm going to land the plane of this show. We'll find it. We'll try to figure this out coming up. Getting ready to wrap up the show as we get out of here on a Tuesday? That was a really fun segment, guys. I needed that laugh. That's from Tom in the Villas. Thank you, Tom. Mike, on game night tonight, Josh is going to hit the stats from the game from the 77 like it was the 07 Phillies just to prove he's solid. Well, that I found. I got the stats from the game. We read the lineup and everything for you there. A couple other messages coming in. This is over on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app where you can message us thanks to First Bank of Seattle. Raiders fans have been drinking heavy since they lost the Super Bowl to Tampa, including excessive drinking the year the Raiders swept the division and did not win it. No division championships and one playoff appearance since the Super Bowl loss. Drink the sorrows away. That's from Hal Davis, listening on the app in Stanton, Delaware. All the Delaware people are my favorite. There's so many people in Delaware. I appreciate you all that listen to our station over there and are using the free mobile app where you can message us through the app. As always, thanks to First Bank of Seattle. And no, Josh is not in the room right now, so he can't really defend himself. And people in the building want to know, hey, is he eating my peanut butter? I don't know that can you imagine? Now, that is probably crossing the line, going into the kitchen and just popping the cap off of somebody's peanut butter and making a sandwich with somebody else's like if you came in that day, like I have bread here. I bring my own bread, right? Because I use a special type of kind of keto-friendly bread. So I have my own bread here. I have like a bag that has like bread in it. In the bag with my bread, I also have like, tuna fish. Like I have cans of tuna fish and, whatever. But if I pulled out my bread and then started going through the fridge and whipped out someone's peanut butter and like started searching, like that would be crossing the line of epic proportions. You can't just open up the cap of somebody's Skippy or Jif and just start spreading it on your bread. You can't do that. I don't know that Josh does that, but I'll have to ask him. I don't know what he's currently doing. He might be clearing out the fridge currently right now. All right, couple things before we get out of here on the Tuesday. The Phillies have just made a couple of moves. One, they have placed Rhys Hoskins on the 10-day injured list. Hoskins is out, and Mickey Moniak is up to take his spot. I don't know why they keep doing the Moniak thing. They announced today that Hoskins has been placed on the 10-day IL with a groin injury. Moniak recalled from AAA. Why do they keep bringing Moniak up? Like, what does he add? Now I know Maton's up. Look, I get it. Their farm system is not very good. It is not very deep. But for the most part, the Moniak thing is over. Come on, man. Let me get the Phillies lineup up for you before we get out of here. Man, this show has been flying today. Thanks to everybody who has been a part of the show. Mike, imagine a finger scoop in your fresh jar. Yeah, that would be terrible. If somebody went, now I don't bring the peanut butter here, but I know people do. I see peanut butter in the kitchen. Is a peanut butter finger scoop fair game? Absolutely not. I'm out on that. Let me get you the lineup tonight. You ready? Left field, Herrera leads off. Segura, second base, hits second. Harper's in right field. He hits third. Real Muto catches. He's up fourth. Brad Miller's at first base. He hits fifth. Gregorius is at second. Shortstop. He hits sixth. Torreyes is playing third base tonight, and he hits seventh. Travis Jankowski is in center field, and he hits eighth. And on the bump tonight, batting ninth and pitching, it is Nola Day. Aaron Nola. Remember, you used to get excited when Aaron Nola was on the mound. It was like Nola Day, and now you're just like, eh. I still feel like, though, when Nola pitches that he can spin me a gem, and good things can happen. But Nola's got to pick it up. They need more from Nola to close this thing out. The news today, though, Hoskins on the 10-day IL, retro to the 7th of August. So that is back to Saturday. And Mickey Moniak has been called up in his place. So a couple things on the lineup tonight. Herrera's in left again, so he has been moved out of center kind of over to left because McCutcheon's out. The Segura, I like that. The 2, Harper 3, Real Muto 4. Miller, the lefty, and the 5 they're facing a right-handed pitcher in Scherzer tonight. So they're going with a couple of lefties. But Torreyes is playing third base tonight instead of Bohm. And Torreyes, much better defensive player. So they're going with a left-handed hitter, Herrera, left-handed hitter, Harper, left-handed hitter, Miller, left-handed hitter, Gregorius, and a left-handed hitter in Jankowski. 5 lefties are in the Phillies lineup tonight as they try to try to steal a win against the Dodgers with Max Scherzer on the mound. I think it's Scherzer tonight that is pitching for the Dodgers. I did see the Dodger lineup earlier today. The Dodgers lineup earlier today, I'm pretty sure. Let me see. Funny because I think my boss is out there giving Josh the business for stealing food out of the fridge. No, I'm just kidding. I thought I heard Josh out there somewhere. Dodgers lineup tonight. Turner's leading off, playing second base. Muncy is at first base, hits second. Mookie Betts plays right field. Mookie Betts was playing second base. He's on my fantasy team, and I thought I was going to get second base eligibility for Betts, but I only think he played there 2 or 3 games, so I'm not quite there yet. I'd like to see Betts go back to second base. Corey Seager hits fourth place shortstop. Will Smith, the catcher, he hits fifth. A.J. Pollock is in left field. Chris Taylor plays third base. Cody Bellinger is in center field. And Max Scherzer is on the mound. That's the Dodger lineup tonight as they look to open up a 4-game set against the Phillies here. A 4:05 West Coast is the 7:05, excuse me. 7:05 for the East Coast. It's 4:05 out west for the Dodger fans out there in L.A. And we'll be certainly recapping that tomorrow here on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, a couple other things we want to get to before we jump out today to some of the news of the day. With the Eagles, that is Andre Dillard is week to week with a knee injury, right? And Kayvon Wallace, the safety, is also week to week with a knee injury. So a couple of injuries are starting to affect the Eagles moving forward here as they get ready for their game on Thursday night. And we'll have that for you, of course, on 97.3 ESPN. The one thing that I took away, we had the unofficial depth chart that came out today. We talked about they have no starter listed at left tackle. It will now be Jordan Mailata. With Andre Dillard out week to week, that thing is pretty much wrapped up over at that spot as well. All right, so we got you up to date on all the news there with the Phillies. We got you up to date with all the news, I think, on the Eagles. The biggest news really today was Dillard and Wallace both updated on the injury. Dillard with a knee sprain, Wallace with a groin strain. Reese Hoskins on the injured list. He has a groin strain as well. Oh, and the big news today, it's not huge news, but it was kind of it was kind of just reflective, was that veteran cornerback Patrick Robinson informed the Saints that he's retiring. And why is that big news here? Robinson had one of the biggest plays in the Eagles' run to the Super Bowl, the 50-yard interception return that he took back for a touchdown against the Eagles in that game against the Minnesota Vikings back in 2017's run. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3. Jeff Bone and Pookie is watching the show on YouTube. Says, you guys really had me laughing hard at work. I really appreciate that. Jeff, we always appreciate you watching the show on YouTube. All the people watching on YouTube, thanks to you guys out there. You guys really help make the show a lot more fun. Everybody listening to the show on the app, you can always download the free mobile app through the Apple Store or Google Play and message us through the app as well. I'm back again tomorrow. Mike McGarry, Jason Fitz, Jeff Mosher, Jeff Kerr, busy show as we get you ready for the Eagles on Thursday night. We'll recap the Phillies and the Dodgers and the latest on Ben Simmons. That's all coming up tomorrow right here on the Sports Bash. Josh has game night coming up next. Tom Moore stops by at 6:20, and you can listen to that on the app and, of course, right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Josh Henning produced tonight's show, and I'm Mike Gill. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Gill Show, and have a great rest of your Tuesday evening, everybody. I'm back tomorrow, too.